Chapter 001 I crossed over. I'm single. This is a slow burn story. Take your time to read it. Hungry. So hungry that I can't sleep. Zhang Xiaochuan fumbled to get up and went to the kitchen, hoping for a miracle, but it was clearly impossible. The rice jar was still empty. Helpless, Zhang Xiaochuan found the water jar and gulped down water, accidentally drinking too much. Now, he felt a bit nauseous and nearly vomited when he burped. Sitting on a stone bench in the yard, Zhang Xiaochuan looked up at the sky in silence, cursing the heavens in his heart. I've suffered enough in my last life. I finally crossed over, and this is the best I get? Not even a wealthy family? Although I could showcase my knowledge that surpasses this era, the premise is that I can't die of hunger first. The more Zhang Xiaochuan thought about it, the angrier he became. If I were to die of hunger after crossing over, that would make me the biggest laughingstock among all crossers. What's even more absurd is that the village he found himself in after crossing over was a real bachelor village. With 500 bachelors plus himself, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but complain internally. I'm really single now. Just think about those crossover novels titles like I Became a Prince, I Became a Foolish Monarch, I Became a Prodigal, or, at the very least, I became the foolish son of a landlord. And here I became the 501st bachelor. Damn, heavens, are you messing with me? Sigh, after the complaints, I'm still hungry. Although I can work hard to change my circumstances in the future. Right now I can't sleep from hunger. What should I do? Waiting for answers. 3 days ago, in modern times, at the tourist destination Qingqing Mountain, Zhang Xiaochuan sat in the cable car going up the mountain, feeling complicated as he looked outside, thinking about how he was foolish enough to believe the fortune teller who said he could change his fate by coming to this mountain. Born in the 1980s to an ordinary farmer's family in the north, Zhang Xiaochuan worked hard to attend an ordinary university and graduated to become a manufacturing engineer at a mobile phone production factory. He worked for over a decade as a technician because he wasn't good at networking and was just doing his job. Just when he thought he might finally get promoted, the market downturn hit and the factory relocated south. By then, he was in his 40s and didn't want to travel again, so he chose to resign and look for a new job. However, during his job search, he found that at his age, without high qualifications, he faced numerous obstacles. Plus, since his hometown was a third-tier city, finding a job became even more difficult. Zhang Xiaochuan should have been looking for jobs at home, but he ended up in Chengdu. It turned out that while he had nothing to do in his job search, he aimlessly wandered around hoping for some opportunity. And he really did encounter an opportunity when he met a fortune teller in the park. The fortune teller told him that the clouds would part and fortune would come his way. Normally, he wouldn't believe such things, but when a person hits rock bottom, they tend to do inexplicable things. Zhang Xiaochuan ended up chatting with the fortune teller, and before he knew it, he was following the fortune teller's guidance to come here. Just as he was regretting coming, his phone rang. When he saw who was calling, Zhang Xiaochuan frowned. Not good. Sure enough, on the other end, his wife's angry voice came through. Zhang Xiaochuan, have you lost your mind? You didn't even give me a heads up before running off to travel. If your second brother hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. Zhang Xiaochuan had to patiently explain that he was following the fortune teller's guidance to travel. This explanation led to another round of scolding. Eventually, Zhang Xiaochuan promised to return today, and only then did his wife hang up while still grumbling. After hanging up, Zhang Xiaochuan turned back to look out the window, but then he noticed a fly buzzing around the cable car door, as if it had some kind of irresistible magic drawing him in. Slowly, Zhang Xiaochuan raised his right hand and slapped the cable car door hard. Whether he hit the fly or not was unclear, but tragedy struck as he felt his balance shift forward and his body pass through the cable car door. He flew out, plummeting rapidly, and Zhang Xiaochuan fainted. In that moment of unconsciousness, it felt as if he replayed his entire life. What Zhang Xiaochuan didn't know was that with his fall, he had died mysteriously. His death was very mysterious. The cable car he was in was intact, but surveillance showed he had boarded it normally. The only thing missing were a few seconds of footage where he disappeared. The head of the criminal investigation team at the Qingqing County Public Security Bureau was extremely frustrated. The higher-ups were taking this cable car accident very seriously because it was too bizarre. The cable car was unharmed, yet the footage showed someone falling from it, while the interior footage was blank. Thus, they were given a week to solve the case, which felt impossible. Bang! Bang! The sound of a head hitting the table. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaochuan's soul had crossed over 1,000 years, inhabiting another Zhang Xiaochuan from a millennium ago, continuing to fall rapidly from the sky. As he was about to hit the water, Zhang Xiaochuan saw a girl with a graceful and ethereal presence. Her skin soft and delicate, like ice and jade, a beauty stunning enough to bring down a nation, slowly rising from the water. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't know how he could see her so clearly while falling at such high speed, but he was captivated. In reality, the rapid descent and extreme fear made it hard to see anything clearly. He only saw a blur of white, while everything else was just his imagination. With a splash, Zhang Xiaochuan fell into the water, and darkness enveloped him as he lost consciousness. During the Kaiyuan era of the Tang Dynasty Suzhou, Qingqing Mountain, it was a scorching summer day, and in the clear waters among the Green Mountains, a girl with delicate skin was playing in the water. "Miss, hurry up and come out, the master is looking for us." A girl on the shore anxiously called out to the one in the water. "Xiao Yin, it's rare for me to come out, let me swim a bit longer," the girl in the water replied nonchalantly. "No, miss, if the master finds out we snuck out, we'll be punished again. Please come up quickly," Xiao Yin urged. "I want to go up. I don't care about uncle, he's even stricter than my father. Punishment is just house arrest. Why don't you come down and swim for a bit? This water is so refreshing," the girl in the water retorted. "Why should I care about you? I always end up suffering after your punishments." "I've had enough of having such a headstrong Miss," Xiao Lian thought to herself, but continued to urge her. Miss, I beg you, please come up. I want." "Xiao Yin, you're so annoying. Miss, hurry up." The only response to Xiao Yin was the sound of splashing water. But she clearly wasn't going to give up, continuing to shout, "Miss, ah!" With Xiao Yin's sudden high-pitched scream, a figure fell from the sky and crashed into the water, clearly unconscious. The girl snapped back to her senses and hurried to pull the person ashore. Chapter 002. The Girl in the Water. Hey. Zhang Xiaochuan was woken up by a voice beside his ear after who knows how long. Slowly opening his eyes, all he could see was a sea of white, and then he heard two words that made him feel like he wouldn't die if he didn't say them. "So white. Ah, you pervert." Slap. Thud. Zhang Xiaochuan was kicked back into the water. By the time he managed to come to his senses and was ready to surface, a girl on the shore shouted, "Turn around. Don't look. Don't come up." "Okay." Zhang Xiaochuan obediently turned around. After a while, the girl's voice came again. "All right, you can come up now." At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan took a closer look at the two girls in front of him. One of them, with wet hair, was probably the one who saved him. Upon closer inspection, her beauty was not only stunning but also familiar. She seemed to be a relatively well-known star, though she appeared much younger than he remembered, around middle school age. Looking quite innocent, he just couldn't recall her name. Hey. Accompanied by the voice, the other girl waved a fair hand in front of Zhang Xiaochuan, interrupting his thoughts about the girl's name. She continued, "You're not allowed to stare at our young lady like that. If you keep looking, I'll poke your eyes out." Zhang Xiaochuan examined the girl who spoke. Dressed in a maid outfit reminiscent of a period drama, she was quite pretty, while the other girl was dressed like a young lady. He thought to himself, is this cosplay? Even the way they speak is so old-fashioned. However, beauty is justice. Zhang Xiaochuan imitated the girl's way of speaking and said, "Thank you, ladies, for saving me. As they say, meeting is fate, and a small favor should be repaid with great gratitude. I am truly grateful for your life-saving kindness." The two girls looked at Zhang Xiaochuan as if he were a fool, their eyes saying, "Is this guy a bit slow? His way of speaking is so strange." Zhang Xiaochuan felt the sharpness of their gazes, realizing he had no talent for humor. He could only awkwardly blush and say, "I'm not joking." Saying thanks feels insincere. "But really, thank you very much." After saying that, he turned to leave, feeling he couldn't stay any longer. What is wrong with me? A poor guy in his 40s, just escaping from death, trying to flirt with young girls? I don't know what got into me to say those things. It's really not my style. Also, that fortune teller said I'd have opportunities here, but didn't he mention anything about romantic encounters? I'm struggling to make a living. How could I have the time or money for affairs? This is nonsense. I should just head back. Thus, Zhang Xiaochuan bid farewell to the two quirky girls in ancient costumes. At this moment, he still hadn't realized he had crossed over, wandering around the mountain. He felt increasingly uneasy. Why does this place feel different from before? Where is everyone? Even if it's the off-season for tourism, there should still be quite a few hikers. Did I fall from the cable car into an undeveloped area? Wait until I go out. I have to complain about this scenic spot. If they don't compensate me 100,000 or 80,000, this matter won't be over. How did I just fall off the cable car like that? Thankfully, I fell into the water and wasn't hurt. Just thinking about it makes me scared. Zhang Xiaochuan habitually reached for his phone. Wang Defo lost his phone too. Poor me. After using my 1,000 yuan phone for 5 years, I can finally get a new one. When I get to the visitor center, I'll just say it's the Fruit 15 Plus. With that thought, Zhang Xiaochuan walked down the mountain. He originally intended to go to the visitor center to file a complaint, but somehow he ended up at the main hall of the temple. Zhang Xiaochuan thought, today is so unlucky. It must be because I didn't sincerely pray. Since I'm already at the temple, I might as well go in and pray a bit before leaving. A few minutes won't make a difference. With that in mind, he headed towards the main hall. Just as he entered, a Taoist priest holding a whisk approached him and said, "Infinite Heaven's Sovereign, young practitioner, may I invite you to the back courtyard for a chat?" He gestured for Zhang Xiaochuan to follow and turned to walk towards the back door. However, he noticed Zhang Xiaochuan standing still, seemingly preparing to leave. So he quickly called out again, "Young practitioner, please wait. If you have something to say, just say it directly. I have other matters to attend to." Thinking about his complaint at the visitor center and not having informed his wife beforehand, Zhang Xiaochuan felt it was better to hurry back home instead of wasting time with this Taoist. The previous fortune teller had seemed like a Taoist too, which made him feel even more uncomfortable. Perhaps the young practitioner is not fully aware of the current situation. If you do not follow me, it could be a matter of life and death. Life and death? What do you mean by that? Are you threatening me, you smelly Taoist? Just because you call me young practitioner doesn't mean I'm young. You're the one who's young. Your whole family is young. Looking at the Taoist, who was in his 30s and probably younger than him, Zhang Xiaochuan felt aggrieved. What do you mean by young practitioner? Who are you calling young? Do not be angry. Young practitioner. I mean no harm by calling you that. If you come with me, I can help you understand. I have no cash, no card, and no phone. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly checked his pockets, realizing his phone was gone. He suddenly remembered he lost it when he fell into the water and could only accept this reality with resignation, shrugging his hands at the Taoist. Look, I don't even have my phone. I'm completely broke and can't support your teachings. Goodbye. With that, he turned to leave, ignoring the Taoist. Young practitioner, please wait. The Taoist stepped forward to block Zhang Xiaochuan's path. Not stopping. The Taoist didn't seem to put in all his effort to stop him, and Zhang Xiaochuan dodged him. Please wait. The Taoist blocked him again. Not stopping. Zhang Xiaochuan evaded once more. Please not. Seeing that persuasion was futile, the Taoist formed a gesture and forcefully poked Zhang Xiaochuan's chest, saying, the reason you cannot see through this is that you have not yet met someone who can give you 3 marks. Are you kidding me? Zhang Xiaochuan felt a tremendous force hit him, and he involuntarily flew back. A sharp pain shot through his chest, followed by a rush of memories flooding into him, causing a wave of nausea and a strong urge to vomit. Ugh. He felt dizzy and nauseous, and after throwing up, he fainted. Zhang Xiaochuan seemed to have had a long dream, where he was a descendant of a general from the Tang dynasty, also named Zhang Xiaochuan. This general was granted the title of Marquis of Qingxing County due to his military achievements, and the title was passed down to his elder brother. He had been sent to a private school in the village at the age of 7, and now at 16, he was still a useless person who hadn't learned anything after 9 years. Surprisingly, his family had not given up on him all these years. It was said that his father was also foolish in his youth and gradually became wiser. This time, he had come with the steward, Fu Bo, to Qingxing Mountain to honor his father's tablet and pray for blessings, hoping to gain insight this year so that he could achieve good results and be recommended to the county school next year. However, he slipped and fell while ascending the mountain. When he woke up, he found himself lying on a bamboo bed, still feeling dizzy. And it seemed that everything in the dream had actually happened. Just then, a thin old man pushed the door open and exclaimed, Erlang, you're awake. You scared me to death. Fu Bo, let me take my time, Zhang Xiaochuan blurted out, raising his hand to stop the old man from speaking further. He looked at his hands, then hurriedly touched his face and head. This was definitely not a 40-year-old body. He then tore open his clothes and saw 3 distinct bruises on his chest, which were clearly contusions. At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan really wanted to take out a mirror to check if he had transformed into a monkey. After throwing up again, he fainted once more. When Zhang Xiaochuan woke up again, his mind was clear, but his memories were still fuzzy. Many things felt familiar, yet unfamiliar. However, he vaguely sensed that he had crossed over, and that the memory fusion occurred after being struck by the Taoist. He should know quite a bit. Zhang Xiaochuan got out of bed and saw Fu Bo standing beside him with a constipated expression, hesitating to speak, fearing that if he said anything, Zhang Xiaochuan might faint again. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't know how to explain, so he decided to find the Taoist first. As soon as he stepped outside, he saw the Taoist who had hit him, casually waving a whisk and resting it on his arm, exuding an air of superiority. Zhang Xiaochuan resisted the impulse to turn around and leave, and said to the Taoist, I was too reckless earlier. Do you have time for us to talk? I was already waiting here for you. The Taoist replied expressionlessly. Zhang Xiaochuan was worried that Fu Bo would hear something he shouldn't. So he turned to send Fu Bo to the front hall to wait for him, afraid that the Taoist would beat around the bush and waste time. He quickly asked directly, did I cross over? Cross over? The old Taoist pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, I don't know. After hearing the Taoist's words, Zhang Xiaochuan thought that the memory fusion was a fluke. Then he wondered why the Taoist had struck him, and without thinking, he blurted out, then why did you give me 3 marks and hit me again? I don't know. The Taoist shook his head in response. Zhang Xiaochuan suppressed his anger and continued to ask, if you don't know, then why did you hit me? Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was getting anxious, the Taoist hurriedly said, what I mean by I don't know refers to my actions being based on the prophecies of my master and not out of my own intentions. I only know that you are an unpredictable person, and I acted according to the prophecy. Zhang Xiaochuan felt even more confused after listening, looking at the Taoist priest with a puzzled expression. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's eager gaze for more information, the Taoist pondered for a moment and continued. The founder of our sect left a prophecy stating that there will be calamities in the future, and at that time, an unpredictable person will appear, representing the variable of the disaster. The leader who encounters this unpredictable person should use the Sankai soul capture technique to strike them and leave a mark. But how do you know I am this unpredictable person? What exactly is an unpredictable person? At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan was like a curious child, continuing to question the Taoist. The fate of a layperson is supposed to have already departed from this world, yet the layperson stands right in front of me. This is what is meant by unpredictable. All of this is derived from my sect's divination techniques. After hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan felt it was all fantastical. The fact that a dead person could be predicted was even stranger than time travel. Moreover, the Taoist mentioned a calamity during the Tang dynasty. And according to the memories of his previous life, it was currently the Kaiyuan era, which was indeed the prosperous time of the Tang dynasty, just before the onset of the Ensure Rebellion. Was the calamity meant to refer to the prevention of the Ensure Rebellion? But could such a thing really be predicted? Was he transported to a world of cultivation? He asked with confusion, "Are you a cultivator?" "Not quite. I am merely a practitioner," the Taoist replied modestly. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, how humble. Isn't cultivation just another way of saying cultivation? If only he could cultivate. It would be better than his previous life as a nobody. He tentatively asked, "Since I am the one who should face the calamity, can I follow you to cultivate?" The layperson still has unfinished business in the mortal world and cannot follow me in cultivation. However, the founder of our sect left behind a cultivation method to be gifted to the layperson. What cultivation method? Is this the golden finger of a time traveler? Zhang Xiaochuan felt a mix of excitement, confusion, astonishment, and anticipation. "Please wait a moment. I will go get it," the Taoist said before turning to leave. Zhang Xiaochuan was thrilled. He had only casually mentioned it, yet a cultivation method really existed. This was too amazing. Would he be able to fly with a sword and achieve immortality? He was overwhelmed with excitement. Just then, the Taoist returned, holding a book. "This is our sect's method. The layperson will surely gain insights from studying it." Zhang Xiaochuan quickly took it and eagerly opened it, only to have his expression change to one of great disappointment. This was just the Tao Te Ching, one of the recommended readings from later generations, with identical content. Well, not entirely. It lacked modern annotations. Could this really lead to cultivation? The Taoist seemed to see through Zhang Xiaochuan's thoughts and nodded at him. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a wave of frustration flooding over him. Was cultivation just an illusion? After confirming several times that there was no cultivation as he had imagined, Zhang Xiaochuan fell into a state of acceptance. Since he had already traveled to this world, he didn't need to worry about facing his furious wife or the headache of job hunting. Zhang Xiaochuan decided he should first return to see his home in this world, so he found Uncle Fu and said, "Uncle Fu, let us go down the mountain." Later, Zhang Xiaochuan asked Uncle Fu if he had ever sought immortality. Uncle Fu mentioned a few hearsay stories, but for someone who has been through the information explosion of later times, everything sounded like the nonsense of a swindler. At this point, Zhang Xiaochuan understood that although Taoism is quite mystical, he had not crossed over to a world of immortals. After all, the philosophies of Buddhism and Taoism in later times are also very esoteric, but ordinary people have either had little contact with them or have never encountered them at all. Chapter 004. I am the second son of the Baron descending from the mountains. He found a village nestled among the green hills and clear waters, with the sounds of roosters crowing and dogs barking. Although the scene was beautiful and soothing, it was undoubtedly an ordinary rural village, even somewhat dilapidated. Considering that after the crossover, he was merely a lowly baron of a newly established county. He thought it was unlikely that he would still be living in such a remote area. "Uncle Fu, if I remember correctly, my grandfather was a baron of the newly established county, right?" "Yes, Erlang. Although the old master has passed away, Uncle Fu has watched Zhang Xiaochuan grow up, so he still habitually calls him Erlang. My father inherited the title of baron, right?" "Yes, Erlang. Then I also." It seems the title was passed on to the eldest brother. Although I am not a baron, I can still be considered the second son of a baron, right?" "Yes, Erlang, but what exactly are you trying to say? Why did you bring me here? Is the Baroness' residence really in such a remote place?" Uncle Fu thought to himself that perhaps Zhang Xiaochuan had really hit his head and was talking nonsense. Ignoring Uncle Fu's puzzled expression, Zhang Xiaochuan continued walking forward. Just then, Uncle Fu's voice came. "Erlang, we are home. This is the Baroness' residence? Isn't this just a farmer's courtyard?" "This is indeed not the Baroness' residence, but we live here." Uncle Fu appeared to have something more to say, but hesitated. "Erlang, you should rest for a while. I'll go call Old Yin to come and take a look at you." "Okay." After Uncle Fu left, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a wave of hunger in his stomach. Although the Taoist priest had given him some dry food before descending the mountain, after such a long journey, he was already quite hungry. He went to the kitchen and opened the rice jar. Well, he had never seen a poorer second son of a baron. Even a rat would shed tears upon arrival, and he had thought he would experience the life of ancient nobility, but now he truly had. At that moment, he heard the sound of a door opening. "Xiaochuan, why did you take so long to come back from the mountains? If you hadn't returned today, I would have gone to look for you." A sturdy man in simple clothing, around 30 years old, approached Zhang Xiaochuan. This was his half-brother, Zhang Jingren, the current baron of Qingqing County. Shouldn't a baron be dressed in fine clothes with a jade belt? Indeed, his half-brother had refreshed his understanding, but thinking about the rice jar, it seemed quite reasonable. "I was delayed a bit while listening to some teachings in the mountains." Zhang Xiaochuan thought to deflect his half-brother's worries, so he casually brushed it off. His memory was still somewhat unreliable, and he recalled that he also had a sister-in-law named Chao, nicknamed Chiner. Usually, when Uncle Fu wasn't around, it was his sister-in-law who managed the household. It was mealtime now, but he hadn't seen her, so he asked, "Brother, why haven't I seen sister-in-law since you returned?" The elder brother paused for a moment, not responding to Zhang Xiaochuan. It was clear he didn't want to answer that question, so he changed the subject and said, "I bought some rice." You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll go prepare something for you. At that moment, Uncle Fu's voice came from outside. Erlang, the old man Yin is here. Let him take a look. The elder brother, hearing that the old man Yin had arrived, quickly asked, what happened to Xiaochuan? It's nothing, just slipped and fell. It's not serious, Zhang Xiaochuan replied, giving Uncle Fu a knowing look. Uncle Fu, perhaps feeling responsible for Zhang Xiaochuan's fall down the cliff, then briefly explained the incident of Zhang Xiaochuan falling and losing consciousness to the elder brother, repeatedly apologizing. That's how it is. If anything happens to Erlang, I could never atone for it in this lifetime. What are you talking about, Fu? I'm fine, and besides, you can't blame yourself for this, Zhang Xiaochuan comforted him. Fu, Xiaochuan is right, don't take it to heart. Although the elder brother was also worried about Zhang Xiaochuan, he didn't want Uncle Fu to feel overly guilty. So he spoke up to comfort him as well, adding, let Uncle Yin take a look at Xiaochuan. When the old man, Yin, felt Zhang Xiaochuan's pulse, a memory surged back to him. It turned out that all the villagers here were soldiers who had followed his father, some injured, and some elderly. After retiring from the battlefield, these veterans, left without support, were taken in by his father and lived together on the land granted to them during the nobility's reward. Over time, as more and more people gathered, it became a village. The old man Yin, who helped with the pulse check, had once been a military doctor. The village was essentially a group of old bachelors along with a couple of young noble bachelors, and the only woman, the elder sister-in-law, was now missing. After the old man Yin conducted a professional examination, he confirmed that Zhang Xiaochuan was fine, although he had no specific advice. After seeing off the old man Yin, Zhang Xiaochuan initially wanted to ask the elder brother about the elder sister-in-law, but seeing the elder brother's heavy expression, he decided against it. Later, when he had Uncle Fu inquire around the village, he learned that the place was too poor, and the elder sister-in-law couldn't take it anymore and had returned to her family. The old soldiers in the village felt quite sorry for the elder brother. Since Uncle Fu had returned, he took over the cooking. He made dinner with the grain brought back by the elder brother, which turned out to be just 3 bowls of thin porridge. They finished the meal quickly, and after a simple wash-up, each went to their rooms early to rest. Lying in bed, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but sigh. It was dark, and there wasn't even a light. After going through all this, he had originally thought he would live the kind of life unimaginable to the poor as a noble. But it seemed he was still not as well off as in his previous life. Moreover, there were no electronic devices for mental stimulation, which was truly a double torment for both body and spirit. Since he was here, he had to make the best of it. He couldn't just live in poverty like this. He needed to think of ways to live a more comfortable life. Lost in thought, Zhang Xiaochuan eventually fell asleep. There's a reason for the saying early to bed and early to rise. After going to bed early yesterday, he woke up early today. Zhang Xiaochuan got up and didn't see the elder brother or Uncle Fu. After looking around the house and finding it empty, he muttered to himself, looks like I'm the last one to wake up in this house. Not knowing what to do after getting up, he decided to go outside for a stroll. Once he stepped out, he was greeted by lush greenery and a hint of moisture in the air. Taking a deep breath, it was truly refreshing and invigorating. Finally, he found one advantage of his new life. The air was quite fresh. In the distance, there was a bamboo forest on the mountain, shrouded in mist. Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to take a look. On his way, he passed through a village where some veterans were cleaning their yards, some were exercising, and others were chatting idly. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled and nodded to greet them, though his memories of these veterans were quite vague, and he couldn't distinguish who was who. The veterans, on the other hand, looked surprised. A square-faced veteran said to a long-faced one beside him, Xiaochuan actually greeted us. This is a first. While saying this, he smiled and cupped his hands towards Zhang Xiaochuan. The long-faced veteran nodded in agreement. Exactly. This kid has never greeted us before. Don't greet him. Did you forget the General's orders? The square-faced veteran reminded. Right. Let us hurry inside. As they spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan had already walked away. The reason he came to the bamboo forest was that he wanted to find something, thinking that it should be around this season. He searched through the bamboo forest, struggling to find every new bamboo shoot he encountered. Found it. It's so plump. Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed excitedly, finally rewarded for his efforts. Next came the immersive treasure hunting time in the bamboo forest. Thinking back to his previous life as a struggling worker, he had no time or money to travel. His memories of traveling after starting work were all about team-building activities, waking up early, rushing to the destination, eating a meal, playing a game, and then heading home, which was hardly enjoyable. Here, there were no group messages to respond to, no work calls to answer, and no anxiety about various loans. Being close to nature and fully immersed in the hunt for treasures in the mountains and forests felt incredibly relieving. For a moment, Zhang Xiaochuan seemed to return to his childhood, catching grasshoppers in the fields. After working hard for most of the day, he had found quite a few. It was getting late, and Zhang Xiaochuan used his clothing to gather his harvest, eager to return home and cook up a feast. Chapter 005. Cooking is a skill. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan returned to the entrance of his small courtyard, he saw Uncle Fu anxiously coming out from inside. He greeted him. Uncle Fu, where are you rushing off to? Uncle Fu, with a worried yet slightly aggrieved expression, replied, Erlang, you're back. That's good. I was just about to go look for you. He continued, I still haven't fully recovered from my fall a few days ago. It's best to stay at home and not wander around, especially not go up the mountain again. If anything happens, I can't bear the fright. His tone had turned slightly reproachful by the end. Zhang Xiaochuan realized he had forgotten about the elderly man at home. Even after all this time, He was still being nagged at, which was a form of concern. According to his previous memories, Uncle Fu had been his father's attendant. Since there was no one else at home to go to battle, he stayed at the Zhang residence to manage things. Later, when the family fell on hard times, he was responsible for taking care of Zhang Xiaochuan and his brother, essentially watching them grow up. He usually referred to himself as an old servant. But now he was using the term elder, which clearly indicated that he was genuinely worried. Zhang Xiaochuan had no choice but to quickly admit his oversight and say, "I understand, Uncle Fu. I really should have considered this. I will stay at home for the next few days and won't go anywhere." Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan agree so readily, Uncle Fu couldn't scold him further and said, "That's good. Let us go inside and have dinner." Uncle Fu paused for a moment as if he had thought of something and turned to Zhang Xiaochuan, who was about to enter. "Erlang, what do you have in your pocket? Why are you wrapping things in such a formal outfit? And how did you get your robe dirty? Hurry up and show me." He reached out to lift Zhang Xiaochuan's robe. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly turned to the side, as if protecting something very important, and mysteriously said to Uncle Fu, "This is a good thing. Wait until I cook it, and we can eat together later." After saying that, he ignored Uncle Fu and went straight to the kitchen. Uncle Fu was left in a state of confusion in the wind. Food? Cooking together? When did Erlang learn to cook? It seemed strange. He must have hit his head and hoped it wouldn't affect his studies. The kitchen was actually a simple straw shed next to the main house, with very basic cooking utensils, a clay pot, clay basin, clay bowl, a worn-out vegetable knife, and a wooden stump. Having seen and complained about the kitchen yesterday, Zhang Xiaochuan was now able to face everything with calmness. He poured the contents from his pocket into a clay basin, washed them clean with water, and set them aside for later. Then he took out lard, preparing to fry the ingredients. He poured the lard into the pot, and then attempted to light the fire. Zhang Xiaochuan took out 2 pieces of flint, clamping a bit of wood shavings between them, and struck hard, producing sparks and a very unpleasant burnt smell. But the fire wouldn't catch. Clearly, this was not as easy as it looked in videos. He could only resort to calling out, "Uncle Fu, Uncle Fu. What is it, Erlang?" Uncle Fu asked with concern. "Uncle Fu, I can't light the fire. Can you help me?" Uncle Fu looked at Zhang Xiaochuan, who couldn't even light a fire, and was filled with doubt about his cooking abilities. He tentatively suggested, "Why don't we let the old servant do it instead?" Uncle Fu's expression was noted by Zhang Xiaochuan, and this distrust, even with a hint of disdain, deeply hurt him. The thought of being looked down upon after having crossed over was intolerable. How could the knowledge he possessed, which was thousands of years ahead, be just for show? But at the moment, since he couldn't even light a fire, it seemed like just that. One day, he would get a gas stove with an electronic igniter and make Uncle Fu, this ancient man, look down on him no more. Thinking too far ahead, he decided to let Uncle Fu light the fire. So he said to Uncle Fu, "Don't worry, cooking is a piece of cake. Once it's done, it will definitely be a taste you've never experienced before." Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's confidence, Uncle Fu felt a sense of reliability he had never experienced before. Could it be that this was what they meant by surviving great difficulties brings future blessings? Was Xiaochuan finally understanding something? He hoped the family head would bless him. And without responding, he quietly went about lighting the fire. It's really true that comparing people can be infuriating. Uncle Fu lit the fire with a few quick strikes. Almost like magic. Zhang Xiaochuan had to admit that when it came to starting a fire, Uncle Fu indeed had the right to look down on him. With Uncle Fu, a professional fire starter, joining in, the heat was fully secured. Zhang Xiaochuan added the prepared ingredients to the pot to fry, and with the sizzling sound of oil, a fragrant aroma wafted out. Uncle Fu, smelling the delicious scent, wanted to ask, but seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's serious expression, he couldn't bear to interrupt. So he held back. Not long after, Zhang Xiaochuan finished frying the dish and sprinkled a bit of salt on it. Besides salt, there were no other seasonings, and he had crushed the coarse salt himself. After sprinkling the salt, Zhang Xiaochuan brought the dish to the dining table. Uncle Fu was eager to try it, but felt constrained by their master-servant relationship and didn't want to dig in directly. Although the Zhang family had fallen from grace, they still held on to certain traditions, and Uncle Fu respected both Zhang Xiaochuan and his brother. Seeing Uncle Fu's awkward expression, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but chuckle and called out, "Uncle Fu, come and try it. It's really crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, with a delightful flavor." He licked his lips, having already eaten one himself. Uncle Fu quickly reached for his chopsticks, but halfway through, he froze, staring at the food in the bowl and asked, "Why does this look so much like a bug?" "You're making a big deal out of nothing. It is a bug," Zhang Xiaochuan replied disdainfully, popping another one into his mouth, crunching it loudly. He continued, "This little thing is called a bamboo worm. They love to munch on fresh bamboo shoots, and they taste incredibly delicious. Don't worry, I guarantee it's tasty." Seeing how much Zhang Xiaochuan enjoyed it, Uncle Fu thought that if the young master could eat it, then he could too. So he picked up a bamboo worm and put it in his mouth, overcoming his fear and biting down hard. The crunch revealed a delightful texture, and the aroma of the bamboo worm burst in his mouth. The unique meatiness of the fried worm combined with the bamboo and creamy flavors provided a strong sensory impact for someone from ancient times, where food was often scarce. Uncle Fu couldn't wait to grab another and popped it into his mouth, with Zhang Xiaochuan following suit. The two of them quickly devoured the bamboo worms. Enjoying every bite, Zhang Xiaochuan smacked his lips, marveling at the pure, natural bamboo worms, declaring them truly delicious. Although lacking in seasonings, High-quality ingredients often require only the simplest cooking methods, and a small flaw in seasoning cannot overshadow their deliciousness. Uncle Fu also savored the taste and remarked, I often encounter bamboo worms when digging for bamboo shoots. Why has no one thought to eat them? You're really clever, Erlang. He continued. I was going to save some for Dala, but I got so caught up in eating that I completely forgot. Can you teach me how to prepare these bamboo worms? I'll go catch some to cook for you and Dala. Is there really a need to teach? You just clean them and fry them directly, Zhang Xiaochuan replied casually. But then noticed Uncle Fu looking at him in confusion. What does frying mean? Uncle Fu asked. Zhang Xiaochuan was taken aback. Frying simply meant frying, didn't he? He countered. Haven't you ever fried anything? Considering that Uncle Fu didn't he understand what frying was, he clarified. It means cooking food using only oil, without adding any water. Only oil, no water? Uncle Fu repeated, suddenly looking thoughtful. Then he rushed into the kitchen, opened the oil jar, and found it empty. Standing there with a dejected expression. Chapter 006. Fried bamboo worms following Uncle Fu into the kitchen. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit guilty as he noticed Uncle Fu standing frozen in place. At that moment, he realized that the oil should have been the lard rendered during the spring festival when pigs were slaughtered. Normally, a bit of it would be added to dishes or porridge to enhance the flavor, and it was meant to last for a good half year. Who would have thought that Zhang Xiaochuan would finish it all in one go? To break the sudden silence, Zhang Xiaochuan stammered, Uncle Fu, there is still a bit of oil in the pot. Hearing this, Uncle Fu immediately sprang into action, rushing to the stove to scoop the oil into a jar, as if afraid that it would vanish if he hesitated even for a second. In the end, he managed to save about 1/5 of the oil. However, he did not release his hold on the jar, and it was clear that he was genuinely distressed, yet he didn't utter a single word of reproach. Zhang Xiaochuan felt uncomfortable and said to Uncle Fu, I'm sorry, Uncle Fu. I shouldn't have done that without asking you first. Zhang Xiaochuan's apology startled Uncle Fu, who quickly replied, Young master, you're making me feel ashamed. How could I blame you? Oil is meant to be consumed. It's just a matter of time. Seeing that Uncle Fu had calmed down, Zhang Xiaochuan continued to reassure him, Don't worry, Uncle Fu. It's just a bit of oil. Once I make some money, I'll get another pig to render more oil, and you'll have jars overflowing with it. Uncle Fu took this as a joke, but he was still pleased by Zhang Xiaochuan's words and responded, all right, then I'll be relying on you, young master. When the time comes, let us fry bamboo worms again and enjoy ourselves. Zhang Xiaochuan hadn't expected frying bamboo worms to be such a meager affair. He realized more profoundly that this noble second son was truly poor. Although meat was expensive in ancient times, it was hard to believe that a noble couldn't even afford a bit of lard. It seemed that making money was urgent. He wanted to draft a plan but had no paper or pen. Unable to hold back his thoughts, he sighed, realizing that the difficulty of starting out was quite significant and the road ahead would be tough. Zhang Xiaochuan recalled that in his past life, he was a homebody who loved reading novels and playing strategy games. He believed many people had fantasized about going back to the past, or traveling to ancient times, or having superpowers. Most would only think about it briefly, but Zhang Xiaochuan had done a lot of research on this topic, forming a certain plan, and even conducting similar simulations multiple times, accumulating a wealth of related knowledge. It could be said he was extremely bored. He had never imagined he would actually travel back in time. His knowledge was merely a peculiar hobby. Yet now, a pile of useless trivia he had learned was finally coming into play. In this age where nothing seemed available, there were indeed many things that could be done. But each was a new endeavor that required significant startup capital from research and development to production and sales, which was not as simple as it sounded. Zhang Xiaochuan looked up at the sky in frustration. Wasn't he supposed to be a second-generation noble? How could a county official from a founding family end up with nothing? When would he be able to experience the life of a noble in that dreadful old society? He needed to make money, make money, make money. This was the most important thing to say 3 times. Currently, the pressing issue was to solve the problem of basic needs. It seemed that making food had a relatively small investment and quick returns, so he decided to take action. Zhang Xiaochuan approached Uncle Fu and asked, Uncle Fu, what do you think of the taste of bamboo worms? They're delicious. The flavor is unmatched. Apart from the venison I had when I accompanied the general on a campaign, nothing else compares, Uncle Fu replied enthusiastically, clearly excited about the bamboo worms. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, if you had to buy them, how much would you be willing to pay for a pound? How much? Are you suggesting that I should ask the old servant for money for the bamboo worms we had before? Uncle Fu's tone changed immediately at the mention of money, revealing his nervousness. I'm just using it as an example. If they were sold, would anyone buy them? And how much would they be worth? Zhang Xiaochuan patiently explained. That's hard to say. Most people find eating insects hard to accept. However, anyone who has tried them would definitely be interested, Uncle Fu replied. Then suddenly seemed to realize something and exclaimed, Zhang Er, are you planning to sell these bamboo worms? That's a matter for merchants. And it could ruin the reputation of the noble house. Seeing Uncle Fu's reaction, Zhang Xiaochuan tried to reason with him but realized it wouldn't be easy. He decided to speak more firmly. Uncle Fu, reputation and face aren't lost just because one engages in trade. Think about those powerful families. Don't they all have business dealings behind the scenes? No one has lost face over it. We're in dire straits now, struggling to put food on the table. And yet we care about our pride? Isn't that a bit too old-fashioned? Besides, I can't bear to go hungry day after day. Would you be able to bear that either? I must go through with this. Zhang Xiaochuan's straightforwardness about his situation revealed his determination to change their circumstances. Uncle Fu, seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's resolve, reluctantly agreed. Since you have made up your mind and are doing this for the noble house, I won't say much more. After a pause, Uncle Fu added, but could you let me handle the public aspect of the trade? That way, it would prevent others from saying that the young master of the noble house is involved in a lowly business, which might hinder your future prospects. Zhang Xiaochuan felt relieved that Uncle Fu was on board. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to manage alone. He was also touched by Uncle Fu's consideration for him. Gratefully, he said, thank you, Uncle Fu, for your understanding. I will definitely consult you about selling the bamboo worms. Looking at Uncle Fu, Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Since directly selling bamboo worms might be difficult, why don't I find a way to package them for sale? Uncle Fu looked a bit confused at the mention of packaging, but didn't he ask for clarification? Zhang Xiaochuan went on, I need flour, eggs, and oil to fry the bamboo worms. I'll go catch the worms, and could you help me buy the other ingredients? It would be best to get vegetable oil. Unable to help himself, Uncle Fu asked, what is vegetable oil? Oh, vegetable oil is things like soybean oil or rapeseed oil, Zhang Xiaochuan explained. Then informed Uncle Fu of the quantities needed. After hearing this, Uncle Fu's expression turned troubled. It seemed he was still preoccupied with the little savings he had left. Although he had just agreed, the mention of money made him waver again. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed the troubled expression on Fu Bo's face and thought to himself that at this point, he couldn't afford to falter. He said to Fu Bo, since we are doing business, this investment is necessary. But don't worry, once we sell the goods, the money will come back. After a moment of contemplation, Fu Bo understood the reasoning and stopped dwelling on it. The two then went about their respective tasks according to their roles. Chapter 007. Fried bamboo worms. With the experience from catching bamboo worms before, Zhang Xiaochuan carried a large bamboo basket this time, taking only his wood-cutting knife. He worked much faster than last time and spent half a day gathering nearly 10 pounds of bamboo worms. At that moment, Fu Bo returned, saying to Zhang Xiaochuan, Erlang, I brought back the items for you. Let us see if they are acceptable. Zhang Xiaochuan looked into Fu Bo's basket and opened it to find exactly what he needed. However, Fu Bo's pained expression was hard to hide. Zhang Xiaochuan decided not to comfort Fu Bo, as he believed that once they started making money, Fu Bo would no longer feel the sting of the expense. The priority now was to develop the fried bamboo worms. Zhang Xiaochuan headed to the kitchen with the ingredients, but suddenly remembered something and turned to ask Fu Bo, where's Degu? Delang usually stayed at the military camp and only returned home once every half-month. If you need to find Delang, I can go to the camp to look for him, Fu Bo offered. No need, I was just asking, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Fu Bo, please help me with the fire. As an important county in the northern part of Jiannandao, Shuzhou saw many merchants passing through, and the business in restaurants and inns was booming. However, it would likely be difficult to sell bamboo worms directly, so Zhang Xiaochuan planned to process them before selling, believing there would be a market for them. Zhang Xiaochuan's processing method involved boiling the bamboo worms to cook and shape them, then removing their heads. He planned to coat them in his homemade crispy batter, which, after frying, should disguise their appearance. Normally, the batter would require flour, starch, eggs, and seasonings. If seasonings were scarce, salt could suffice. Based on Zhang Xiaochuan's memories from his previous life, he noted that at this time, the Tang dynasty lacked direct sources of starch like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and cassava, so he would have to use flour and eggs. While there might be a difference in texture, it could be largely overlooked in this era of material scarcity. Zhang Xiaochuan first poured a pound of flour into a ceramic basin, added half a pound of eggs, and gradually mixed in a small amount of water until a batter formed that had a noticeable stickiness when lifted with chopsticks. Before long, the fire was ready, and smoke wafted up. He heated the oil in the pot, and when it reached the right temperature, he placed a bamboo chopstick in the oil to check for bubbles. Zhang Xiaochuan then took the pre-cooked bamboo worms, coated one in the crispy batter, and placed it in the pot. The sizzling sound of the oil filled the air. Once they turned a light golden color, he removed them to a bowl. After frying all of them, he let them cool, then fried them again until golden brown. The fragrant aroma filled the room, and Fu Bo could hardly wait. He picked up a piece with chopsticks and popped it into his mouth, producing a satisfying crunch that left a delightful taste lingering. Zhang Xiaochuan also tried one, and with a gentle bite, it was perfect. Looking at the fluffy, crispy fried bamboo worms, Fu Bo took another and asked while eating, Erlang, these bamboo worms are even more delicious than the ones we fried directly before. But should we consider a different name for selling them? The golden fried bamboo worms, about the size of a thumb, resembled a popular snack often eaten in later times, prompting an immediate suggestion, let's call it chicken popcorn. However, there was neither chicken nor rice in this dish, which left Uncle Fu puzzled. Why is it called chicken popcorn? He asked. What do you think? Zhang Xiaochuan was caught off guard by the question and could only retort, I guess it looks like a little chicken. Uncle Fu picked up a piece and continued, and its interior is snow white. When you take a bite, it resembles a small flower, hence the name chicken popcorn. Clever. Well, your explanation is so perfect, what more can I say? Next, they needed to set a price. Zhang Xiaochuan calculated the costs. 2 pounds of flour cost 61. 1 pound of eggs 51, and 2 pounds of oil 201. For 10 pounds of fried bamboo worms, excluding labor costs. The total would be 265 won. Both he and Uncle Fu were novices in business, so after some discussion, they decided to price it roughly double the cost. selling for 50 won per pound, with plans to adjust the price based on demand. They got everything ready and were just waiting for the next day to sell at the market, hoping for a successful opening. On the second day, just as dawn broke, around 4 in the morning, Zhang Xiaochuan and Uncle Fu set off for the market. They had to walk over 40 miles to arrive in time to queue for entry before the market opened. If they arrived late, there wouldn't even be a spot to set up their stall. Uncertain whether it was due to the absence of electronic devices leading to better sleep or the excitement of their first business venture, Zhang Xiaochuan surprisingly woke up without needing to be forced. At first, it was pleasant, breathing in the fresh, unpolluted air mixed with morning dew, feeling as if he had been rejuvenated. Just a moment ago, he was marveling at the pristine air of ancient times, filled with natural oxygen bars, but the next moment, he was jolted back to reality by the rough, ancient roads. As his footsteps grew heavier, he realized the situation was dire. In his previous life, even without a car, there were subways, buses, and taxis. Ordinary people didn't walk 20 kilometers. As they continued, his legs began to ache, and he felt weak, struggling to keep up with Uncle Fu. To accommodate Zhang Xiaochuan, Uncle Fu had to walk slowly and take breaks. What should have been a 3 to 4 hour journey stretched to about 6 or 7 hours, and they finally arrived just before the market opened, which dashed their plan to test sell at the grass market earlier. As the market bells rang, Zhang Xiaochuan and Uncle Fu entered, found a spot, and placed some fried bamboo worms on the basket, waiting for customers to approach. Around them were several other vendors selling firewood, eggs, medicinal herbs, and even wild game, with the sounds of their calls echoing throughout the market. Noticing their stall was unattended, Zhang Xiaochuan thought about calling out himself. But despite being over 40 in his previous life, he had never done business and found it hard to speak up. An idea struck him, and he turned to Uncle Fu with a flattering smile. Uncle Fu, look, it's been a while, and no one has come to our stall. Why don't you shout out a few times? Lang, you know that I originally came from a military background, and it's not that I'm being overly sentimental. Even if you want my head, I would not hesitate to give it up. However, this Uncle Fu looks troubled and pauses before saying, it's really hard to shout out loud. It seems that calling out is not easy at all. Uncle Fu, like in my previous life, is a reserved and humble person. But now that I am a noble, I have a status, so I can't be the one to shout. Zhang Xiaochuan thought shamelessly. Actually, I still feel embarrassed, but not shouting isn't a solution. There are stalls and vendors all around. If I don't shout a couple of times, no one will notice my stall. By the time people come to me, the market might be closed, and I might not even get a chance to open. People can be so unreasonable. Zhang Xiaochuan decided he had to persuade Uncle Fu to shout, since he couldn't do it himself. If Uncle Fu knew Zhang Xiaochuan's inner thoughts, he would definitely scold him for being shameless, forcing me to do what you can't. Zhang Xiaochuan furrowed his brow and came up with a plan. Chapter 008, Shouting. Seeing that the bamboo worms were not selling and stuck in a deadlock, Zhang Xiaochuan thought that wasting time like this wasn't a solution. He had to approach Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu, you see, our stall isn't very noticeable right now, and without shouting, it's hard for others to pay attention to us. He continued to persuade. Lang, I understand what you're saying, but I really feel embarrassed, Uncle Fu replied with a troubled expression. I can understand that. I also feel embarrassed to shout since it's my first time. But there's nothing to be ashamed of. Once you boldly shout the first time, you'll get used to it as you go along. Zhang Xiaochuan tried to further persuade Uncle Fu by expressing empathy, saying it's really not that difficult. But Uncle Fu still looked troubled, saying that he was truly sorry and found it hard to speak out. There's no need to apologize. If you really find it difficult, then let this distinguished second son of the noble family shout instead. That would be too much. Zhang Xiaochuan had already started to morally pressure him. In ancient times, how could one make things difficult for the host? And calling himself the distinguished second son was just nonsense. Uncle Fu had become immune to it. But when he heard Zhang Xiaochuan say he would shout, he quickly responded, that certainly won't do. How can I let Lang shout? After a pause, Uncle Fu stomped his foot, as if making a world-shaking decision. Then I'll shout instead. Seeing Uncle Fu agree, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately complimented him. Great. It truly has to be Uncle Fu. Our business will rely on you. Seizing the moment, Zhang Xiaochuan added, Uncle Fu, just draw out the sound and shout chicken rice flour, and give it a try. Uncle Fu fell silent, further building up his confidence, but the construction took a while. Zhang Xiaochuan shamelessly delivered a bold statement. Uncle Fu, we've invested all our possessions into this chicken rice flour, and if we can't sell it today, we'll be at a total loss. Sure enough, money was Uncle Fu's weak point, and soon a loud and robust shout echoed, chicken rice flour. Uncle Fu didn't see Zhang Xiaochuan wiping sweat nervously because earlier, Zhang Xiaochuan had skillfully manipulated him, first presenting facts, then empathizing to close the distance, applying pressure, and finally enticing him with profit, successfully persuading him. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't expect that the thing he was worst at and disliked the most in his previous life would become so smooth for him now. It seemed that his mind had truly opened up after this journey. With the shouts of the vendor, more people came to inquire. Some were interested, but as soon as they heard the price, they jumped back as if infected by a plague and left in a hurry. Eventually, the vendor had to lower the price. First to 45 coins, then to 40, and finally to 30 coins, yet there were still no sales. However, Zhang Xiaochuan insisted that he could not lower the price any further. Doing so would mean a loss. As the sun began to set and the day's business looked bleak, a little beggar approached the stall, watching Zhang Xiaochuan and the vendor with longing eyes. clearly wanting to eat the chicken popcorn. Zhang Xiaochuan, in a bad mood from not selling anything, was about to shoo the beggar away. But at that moment, when he locked eyes with the little beggar, he noticed a pair of bright, clear eyes peering out from a dirty face, filled with hope. Unable to refuse, he grabbed a small handful of chicken popcorn and gave it to the beggar. The beggar immediately began to eat with great delight, their expression of enjoyment making both Zhang Xiaochuan and the vendor swallow hard, as they knew how delicious it was. In the blink of an eye, the beggar finished eating and looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with longing once more. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was contemplating whether to give more, a customer arrived, proving the saying that good deeds are rewarded. The sight of the beggar enjoying the food had attracted this customer. The customer looked around and said, "I'll have some of your special chicken popcorn. It must be delicious and unforgettable." After spending most of the day at the stall without any sales, Zhang Xiaochuan had become quite skilled at dealing with customers. "Can I try a sample?" the customer asked, clearly still cautious about the unfamiliar food. Initially, Zhang Xiaochuan was reluctant to offer a sample, as there was so little and the cost was high. But given the current situation, he realized that refusing to let the customer try it would likely send them away as well. So he agreed, "Sure, please give it a try." He handed a piece to the customer. The customer put the chicken popcorn in their mouth, chewed a couple of times, then closed their eyes as if savoring it. Suddenly, they opened their eyes wide and shouted, "Delicious!" This startled Zhang Xiaochuan, who had been watching intently, but he soon relaxed, knowing that this satisfied customer meant the business would likely prosper. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan expected, the customer then asked, "What is the price for this chicken popcorn?" After glancing at the not-so-large basket, they added, "I'll take it all." The customer, dressed in a silk outfit and slightly plump, clearly didn't seem to be short on money. While Zhang Xiaochuan pondered what price to quote, the vendor excitedly interjected, 30 coins per pound, there's 10 pounds here. Seeing that the deal was set, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't say anything against it. The customer agreed readily and asked Zhang Xiaochuan and the vendor to deliver the goods, which were not far away, to the area where the local inns and restaurants were gathered. Upon arrival, they delivered the goods and received payment. The vendor quickly pocketed the money while Zhang Xiaochuan could only smile. The customer indicated they would like to order again tomorrow. This time, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't let the vendor speak, but informed the customer that the previous price was a trial price. Worried that quoting too high might scare the customer off, he stated that the regular price was 35 coins per pound. The customer readily accepted and even expressed interest in ordering more. After finishing up, it was getting late. Zhang Xiaochuan asked Uncle Fu to buy some more materials. At that moment, Uncle Fu realized that the money they had just earned would have to be spent again, and his expression was quite grim. However, he understood that there was no way around it, so he obediently went to buy the materials. On the way back, Zhang Xiaochuan pondered over the popcorn chicken business. After 2 days of effort, they had made 45 coins, which wasn't bad considering that a regular laborer could earn around 20 coins for a day's work, and even less for long-term employment. Moreover, if they sold at 35 coins, even with just 10 kilograms a day, the income would be nearly 100 coins. But for Zhang Xiaochuan, who had traveled from another world, earning money this slowly was frustrating. He wondered how long it would take to achieve a comfortable life. Zhang Xiaochuan had calculated that to live comfortably as an ordinary person, he would need at least 10,000 coins, and to live in luxury, over 100,000 coins. If he considered needing servants for household chores and guarding the house, that number would only increase. Therefore, the current income was just a drop in the bucket for him, and he needed to think of other sources of income. Fortunately, Uncle Fu was quite satisfied with the profit, thinking that earning over 40 coins in a day was good, and with more income to come, he couldn't help but smile. As they walked back, it grew darker, and it was completely night now, but thankfully the moon was out. After finishing his thoughts, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed Uncle Fu walking lightly and realized he was in a good mood. He was about to tease him when suddenly Uncle Fu tugged at Zhang Xiaochuan and gestured that someone was behind them. Zhang Xiaochuan felt a chill. The security in ancient times was poor, and he feared they might encounter bandits. However, it turned out he was overthinking, as Uncle Fu suddenly turned and dashed to a tree behind them, grabbing someone like picking up a chick and bringing them back. Zhang Xiaochuan was surprised by how agile Uncle Fu was, appearing to be quite skilled. Upon closer inspection, Zhang Xiaochuan recognized that this was the little beggar he had seen at the market in the afternoon. He signaled Uncle Fu to let the person go and asked irritably, "What are you following us for?" The little beggar remained silent. Zhang Xiaochuan asked a few more questions but received no response, as the beggar just looked down at him, which made Zhang Xiaochuan suspect he might be mute. He decided not to concern himself with why the little beggar was following them. He said to the little beggar, "Stop following us, or I won't be polite." After saying that, he ignored whether the beggar heard him and continued on his way with Uncle Fu. Clearly, the little beggar did not hear him and continued to follow at a distance. This time, Zhang Xiaochuan was genuinely annoyed and signaled Uncle Fu to bring the beggar over again. Uncle Fu repeated his previous action and easily brought the little beggar back. Chapter 009. The beggar sister. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the little beggar once more, intending to give another warning, but thinking about the previous reaction, he doubted it would be effective. He then asked Uncle Fu if they should use some force to scare him off. Uncle Fu agreed enthusiastically and was about to take action. Perhaps Uncle Fu did not expect the little beggar to escape without any preparation. The beggar broke free from Uncle Fu's grip and suddenly lunged in front of Zhang Xiaochuan, startling him. After all, he was currently just a teenager, and one who had been malnourished for a long time. The little beggar did not attack Zhang Xiaochuan, but instead sat on the ground, tightly hugging Zhang Xiaochuan's thigh, making it impossible for him to shake her off. At that moment, Uncle Fu reacted and hurried over to pull the little beggar away. However, as soon as Uncle Fu exerted force, the little beggar let out a cry of pain, and Uncle Fu immediately stopped, realizing that she was clearly a girl. Zhang Xiaochuan also felt awkward and found it inappropriate to act against a young girl. He glanced at Uncle Fu, who also looked helpless. Zhang Xiaochuan thought that the little beggar was probably following him just for food, so he decided to take her back first. But before doing that, he decided to test the girl one more time. He said to her, "I know you can hear me. I agree to let you follow us, but you need to let go of my leg first." Sure enough, the girl could hear him and immediately released her grip. It seemed she could indeed hear, but he was unsure if she could speak. However, this was not the time to dwell on that. They needed to head back since they had already wasted quite a bit of time. Zhang Xiaochuan had a really comfortable sleep. He must have been exhausted the day before, as he fell asleep shortly after washing up and didn't wake until the sun was high in the sky. Although his legs were still a bit sore, he felt quite refreshed. When he went outside, he didn't see Uncle Fu or the little beggar and wondered if she had already left. Feeling a bit hungry after getting up, he decided to check the kitchen for something to eat. Indeed, he was not disappointed to find that Uncle Fu had left a bowl of vegetable porridge for him. Although Zhang Xiaochuan was not used to such a light diet due to his past experiences, he could at least manage to eat it. After finishing the porridge, he planned to find Uncle Fu to sort out the bamboo worms ordered by yesterday's customer. Unexpectedly, before he could even step out, Uncle Fu returned. It turned out that Uncle Fu had taken the little beggar to catch bamboo worms and had already gathered over 10 kilograms before noon, which was significantly more efficient than Zhang Xiaochuan. Since they had all the materials ready, they should quickly prepare the chicken popcorn, as he had yet to deliver on the promise made yesterday. Due to the abundance of bamboo worms, they processed them in batches. As the first batch was just fried and taken out of the pot, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed the little beggar staring at the fried bamboo worms with sparkling eyes, drooling uncontrollably. Her adorable expression resembled that of a greedy little puppy, and Zhang Xiaochuan found her utterly charming. In fact, Zhang Xiaochuan had already made up his mind the night before to keep an eye on the little beggar. If she proved suitable, he would let her stay for the long term, as he would definitely need more hands once the business grew. Seeing the little beggar's insatiable desire for the chicken popcorn, he figured it was the perfect opportunity to engage her. "Do you want to eat?" Zhang Xiaochuan asked, picking up a fried bamboo worm. The little beggar quickly nodded in response. "Then you need to answer me a few questions, and I'll let you eat," he continued. The little beggar hesitated for a moment but eventually nodded again. "Can you speak?" Zhang Xiaochuan asked. This time, the little beggar hesitated even longer, but in the end, she nodded slightly. Seeing her acknowledgement, Zhang Xiaochuan decided to test further to see if he could get her to speak, which would facilitate communication. So he continued, "For the next questions, can you answer me by speaking?" The little beggar did not nod this time, but pointed at the fried bamboo worms in Zhang Xiaochuan's hand, indicating that he hadn't been given any yet for answering the previous question. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly offered the bamboo worm with his chopsticks, and the little beggar leaned forward and bit into it immediately, his eyes squinting in delight. "Now tell me about yourself and why you want to follow us," Zhang Xiaochuan said, not wanting to drag out the questioning. He decided to let the little beggar speak freely, but knowing he wouldn't talk without enough incentive, he added, "If you tell us, this bowl is all yours." However, after finishing the bamboo worm, the little beggar remained silent, staring longingly at the bamboo worms, and then looking at Zhang Xiaochuan with a pitiful expression. Zhang Xiaochuan was annoyed and thought, "So you plan to eat without saying anything? Huh." He then threatened the little beggar, "Since you don't want to talk to us, we'll have to kick you out. Uncle Fu, throw him out." To his surprise, when the little beggar heard he might be kicked out, he burst into tears. This left Zhang Xiaochuan and Uncle Fu at a loss. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly said, all right, I won't ask you anymore, just stop crying." But the little beggar continued to sob, and the two looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Letting the little beggar cry wasn't a solution either. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaochuan glanced at the fried bamboo worms and quickly handed some to the little beggar. Sure enough, the little beggar started eating and stopped crying. Seeing the little beggar calm down, Zhang Xiaochuan decided to compromise and not push him to talk anymore. From the little beggar's behavior, Zhang Xiaochuan analyzed that he didn't seem to be scheming. Perhaps there was a special reason he didn't want to speak, and they would have to wait to persuade him later. However, calling the little beggar every day wasn't ideal, so Zhang Xiaochuan asked again, "Can you tell me your name?" The little beggar shook his head but soon found a twig and wrote 2 characters in the dirt. Yaoer. Zhang Xiaochuan was surprised that she could write. In this era, few could do so. It seemed this little girl was not just an ordinary beggar. But that wasn't something to delve into at the moment. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to continue frying bamboo worms, there was a knock at the door from outside. Uncle Fu got up to check and soon returned, shouting, "Quick, put the bamboo worms away." Though confused, Zhang Xiaochuan hurried to follow Uncle Fu's instructions and covered the bamboo worms. While tidying up, Uncle Fu explained that a customer from yesterday had come back demanding the fried bamboo worms, and he was worried about revealing their secret technique, which is why he wanted them put away. Zhang Xiaochuan finally understood. Although frying things was common knowledge in later times, it was considered a unique skill now and needed to be protected. Chapter 010. Don't pull me along at this time. Uncle Fu had already invited the customer in. It was the same person who had come to buy bamboo worms from Zhang Xiaochuan yesterday, but the delivery had been handled by a servant, and he had forgotten to ask for the customer's name or identity. Clearly, the customer was aware of this, as he cupped his hands and greeted. I'm the owner of Fu Lai Lu. My surname is Huang. Having met the young master, I was unaware yesterday that he was from the family of the county lord in Qingcheng, which was indeed impolite, since the county lord's residence has been sold. Everywhere I go, I see people pointing and whispering, making it quite clear that we are looked down upon. It is rare to receive such a sincere and warm greeting. As they say, one should not strike a smiling face, especially since this will be a major client in the future. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly welcomed him with a smile, saying, Oh, it's Manager Huang, my apologies. After some pleasantries, they took their seats in the main hall, or rather, knelt down. Although there are now small stools available, formal meetings or banquets are still conducted in a kneeling position, which Zhang Xiaochuan, who had traveled through time, found quite uncomfortable. He noticed that Manager Huang was clearly there for more than just the bamboo worms, so after the small talk, he waited for the other party to speak, which made it easier to respond. Seeing this, Manager Huang had no choice but to bring up the topic, saying, I came here today somewhat presumptuously, but it is indeed for an important matter. However, before that, I would like to ask if yesterday's chicken popcorn was made by your esteemed household. Zhang Xiaochuan felt there was nothing to hide, so he replied directly, the chicken popcorn yesterday was made by me and Uncle Fu. If Manager Huang has something to say, please feel free. After receiving a definite answer, Manager Huang said, I have two matters to discuss today. Firstly, about the chicken popcorn. We urgently need a supply, and I wonder when your household can provide it again. If we need to increase the order, is that possible? Zhang Xiaochuan roughly calculated the time needed to fry the bamboo worms and replied, it should be ready by afternoon, and I will definitely deliver it to your residence by evening. I just wonder why Manager Huang needs it so urgently. Upon hearing this, Manager Huang pondered for a moment, realizing that this matter could not be kept secret, so he honestly said, as you both know, I am the manager of a restaurant, and I sell this chicken popcorn there. Unexpectedly, it has been extraordinarily popular. It sold out before noon, so I had to come here. But why does it take until evening to deliver when it will be ready in the afternoon? Isn't the travel time to my restaurant quite long? Understanding the situation, Manager Huang suddenly realized, I was so anxious that I forgot about the travel time. He continued, this can be easily arranged. I will have my attendant ride a fast horse here, and once it's ready, he will deliver it immediately, saving you and Uncle Fu a trip. However, he added, the materials for this chicken popcorn are not easy to obtain, so if the supply increases, I will need to hire help, which will significantly raise the costs. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, Manager Huang responded, if you can increase the supply to over 30 jin, I can offer 51. It was clear that Manager Huang had anticipated Zhang Xiaochuan would raise the price and had prepared a quote in advance, now saying it to show his sincerity. Zhang Xiaochuan was surprised at the high price offered by Manager Huang, which was more than 60% higher than what he had paid before. It seemed that Manager Huang wanted to secure an exclusive deal. Indeed, Manager Huang then added, however, there is one condition. You cannot supply anyone else or sell it at a stall. No matter how much I need, I will take it all. This condition was within Zhang Xiaochuan's expectations, so he responded, we agree to this condition. But we need some time to prepare to increase the production to over 30 jin in 3 days. Manager Huang was very satisfied with the response regarding the increase in chicken popcorn and continued, then it's settled. There's one more thing. I would like to take you as my teacher to learn the cooking method for this chicken popcorn. Uncle Fu, don't hold me back. Let me deal with this guy. Upon hearing Manager Huang's words, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately became furious, thinking to himself, after all that talk about a cooperative agreement, you want to learn my skills? Do you think I'm a fool? Uncle Fu looked confused and replied, I'm not holding you back. Zhang Xiaochuan continued to scold. We just discussed the chicken popcorn partnership and reached a mutually beneficial agreement, and now you want to cut off my supply line and steal my recipe? Are you trying to play me? Although Manager Huang didn't fully understand Zhang Xiaochuan's words, it was clear from his expression and body language that he was angry. However, Manager Huang seemed somewhat prepared for this and quickly responded, young sir, I apologize for not making myself clear. Please calm down and let me finish before making a decision. Zhang Xiaochuan remained furious and silent, but he knelt back down to his seat, glaring at Manager Huang as if to say, let us see what you have to say. I know this request is a bit reckless. If you know it's reckless, why still say it? Zhang Xiaochuan looked at him disdainfully. Manager Huang, slightly embarrassed, continued, I, Huang, have only one passion in life, which is cooking. Yesterday, when I saw the chicken popcorn you made, I was amazed. It's neither steamed, boiled, nor roasted. Yet it's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. After tasting it, I couldn't sleep all night thinking about the cooking method. It's unbearable not to know how to make it. So I've made up my mind to learn this technique from you. To learn this skill, I'm willing to take you as my teacher and follow the etiquette of a disciple. I hope you can fulfill this. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan's anger subsided considerably. Being formally accepted as a disciple was a very serious matter in ancient times. As the saying goes, once a teacher, a father for life. Which essentially meant recognizing someone as a mentor. If he learned this skill, his business selling fried bamboo worms would naturally not be affected. However, Zhang Xiaochuan had other plans. Teaching you the cooking method is negotiable, but taking me as a disciple is out of the question. I have a better partnership idea. Not only can I teach you how to make chicken popcorn, but there are also other cooking techniques you haven't seen before. Manager Huang, upon hearing that there were other cooking methods, immediately nodded in agreement. ignoring the other information. Hold on, don't rush to agree. First, listen to my partnership proposal. I hope to exchange cooking techniques for a share in your restaurant. Manager Huang expressed that he didn't understand what a share meant. Zhang Xiaochuan patiently explained. It means we partner to run the restaurant. I provide the skills to help increase profits. A share means you give me a proportionate share of the profits, while the ownership of the restaurant remains yours. After hearing this, Manager Huang thought it was acceptable and said, if you are willing to teach me the cooking method, we can discuss this. I wonder how much of a share you want. Zhang Xiaochuan held up one hand and said, I want 50%. Manager Huang didn't react much, but Uncle Fu beside him raised his eyebrows, signaling that Zhang Xiaochuan was asking for too much. Zhang Xiaochuan felt that the amount was quite small. If it weren't for the need to quickly recoup funds to shorten the earning cycle, he wouldn't consider it. Although his cooking skills from his previous life were mostly home-style dishes, the techniques of frying and cooking were proprietary skills. In this era, opening a restaurant was not just about dominating the dining industry. Manager Huang listened to Zhang Xiaochuan's words. Although his reaction was not very strong, he clearly expressed his disagreement. Isn't that a bit too much, young master? Claiming to help someone dominate the dining industry now seems unbelievable. So, he decided to change his approach. First, could you tell me what the restaurant industry in Suzhou is like, and what market share your establishment holds? Manager Huang indicated that he did not understand. Zhang Xiaochuan explained, how many restaurants with a bit of strength are there, and where do you rank? What is your monthly profit? Currently, there were about 20 to 30 restaurants in Suzhou, and since their establishment was recent, they were at the bottom of the list. To express his own strength, he added, Yizhou is the capital of Jiannan Road, with over 100 restaurants, and our establishment can rank within the top 20. That being said, your restaurant does have some strength. If we reach a cooperation, I would also want a share of the profits from the Yizhou restaurants. That won't work. I can't make decisions for the Yizhou restaurants. Then the skills I teach you can't be used in the Yizhou restaurants. I can agree to that, young master. Manager Huang returned to the previous topic and continued. Currently, the monthly revenue of restaurants in Suzhou should be over 10,000. And our small shop accounts for less than 10%, around 500, with a profit margin of 30%. The chicken popcorn yesterday was quite unique. And the response today has been great, which could increase our income significantly. That's why I dared to promise you some dividends. But 50% is really too much. If you think that's difficult, you still don't know what I can bring you. Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment. How about calculating my share after deducting the previous 500 in revenue? What do you think of that? Moreover, I promise to only take a cut for 2 years. After that, I won't take anything, and you can use and teach the cooking skills as you wish. Manager Huang still looked hesitant. Zhang Xiaochuan suggested. You don't have to decide now. Take a few days to think about it. By then, you can taste my dishes and then decide. Upon hearing this, Manager Huang found it reasonable and left after paying for the fried bamboo worms. Chapter 011. The strange Mo heir Zhang Xiaochuan calculated that today, he made a total of 13 pounds of fried bamboo worms, receiving 650 coins at 50 coins per pound. After deducting the material cost of 25 coins per pound, he netted 325 coins. If he could increase production to 30 pounds a day, he could net 750 coins, which would amount to over 20 strings a month. That was barely a start because the upcoming ventures would require substantial funding, and this money would only improve his current living situation. Although he was joining the restaurant, the supply of bamboo worms had not been cancelled, mainly because Zhang Xiaochuan was still too poor and needed this income to maintain basic expenses. To expand production, he needed to increase manpower and equipment, as the small copper pot he currently used was too labor-intensive. Moreover, to collaborate with Manager Huang, he needed to provide something in return. Zhang Xiaochuan found the only existing piece of paper at home and sketched a blueprint for the equipment he needed. Zhang Xiaochuan went to find Uncle Fu to discuss the upcoming tasks. Uncle Fu was still counting the day's earnings, a smile lingering on his lips. Uncle Fu, we need to increase production and acquire some supplies. I wanted to discuss this with you, Zhang Xiaochuan said. Hearing Zhang's voice, Uncle Fu looked up, his face still reflecting delight, and said happily, Erlang, do you know how much we earned today? Although Zhang Xiaochuan had already calculated it, he played along and asked, how much did we earn? A total of 325 won. I haven't seen this much money in a long time, Uncle Fu replied, grinning widely. That much. Zhang Xiaochuan feigned surprise and continued, Uncle Fu, let's talk about the purchases for tomorrow. Yes, I was so happy that I forgot about what you said. What do we need to buy? Zhang Xiaochuan organized his thoughts and said, first, we need to increase the number of basins for processing and storing bamboo worms. I need to find a reliable blacksmith to create a new stove. I can just grab a few wooden basins from the village, no need to buy those. And you don't have to go to an outside blacksmith for the ironware. We can forge it in the village. That works. But we also need to build the stove platform and increase our manpower to help collect the bamboo worms. No problem. Wait here for a moment. I'll call over those old fellows, and you can give them your instructions directly. After a while, Uncle Fu returned with 2 elderly men. Knowing that Zhang Xiaochuan was unfamiliar with them, Uncle Fu introduced, you usually spend your time at the private school and haven't been back to the village much, so you might not know these old folks. Let me introduce them. He pointed to a square-faced elder of about 50. This is Mo Lao Air. He can forge all kinds of tools. Then he pointed to a slightly younger, sharp-faced elder beside him. This is Gung Lao Lu. You need to repair the stove platform. And this guy is great at building and fixing houses. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly stepped forward and cupped his hands in greeting. Greetings, Uncle Mo and Uncle Gong. I apologize for bothering you both so late. No need for pleasantries. What do you need us for? Mo Lao Air responded without any formality, clearly not treating Zhang as a master. However, since he was seeking help, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't mind too much. He took out the equipment blueprints he had mentioned to Uncle Fu and handed them to Mo Lao Air. These are the iron tools I need and the stove platform I want to build. Could you take a look and see if they can be made? The design is a bit unusual, but there shouldn't be any difficulty in making them. It should be quite simple. Mo Lao Air began to say, but then turned to Uncle Fu. Erlang doesn't know. You wouldn't know either, would you? Uncle Fu suddenly looked as if he had stepped on something painful, jumping up and slapping his forehead. Oh no, how could I forget this? But since I've already called you over, do we really need Lang to give the order for such a small matter? I can just mention it to him later. Zhang Xiaochuan was left confused. What does that mean? Do I really need my elder brother to instruct the villagers to help with some ironwork? Is my status as a second brother just for show? Feeling frustrated. But realizing that I still need to rely on others, I thought of checking with Uncle Fu later, as these two old men seemed quite unusual. Regardless, my plan for wealth is more important. I heard old Mo say again. Since that's the case, let's proceed this way, but you'll need to provide the iron material yourself. I don't know when Erlang needs it. Naturally, the sooner the better. This is just a blueprint. You can specify the details later. So, Zhang Xiaochuan described the size and thickness to old Mo. After listening, old Mo replied, about 10 pounds of iron will be needed, and it can be ready in 3 days. Gung Lalu, do you have any questions? No, the structure of this stove is quite simple. It's just larger than the previous one, Gung Lalu replied. Thus, we just need to wait for Erlang to deliver the iron material before starting the work. After old Mo said this, he prepared to leave. Wait a moment, there's one more thing I haven't mentioned. Seeing them about to leave, Zhang Xiaochuan quickly called out and continued, I also need to borrow a few hands. To his surprise, old Mo walked away without looking back. This left Zhang Xiaochuan even more confused. He turned to Uncle Fu and asked, why does old Mo seem a bit arrogant? Is he going to lend the people or not? Why did he just leave? Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan was still puzzled about old Mo's attitude, Uncle Fu explained. It's all my fault. It's not that old Mo doesn't understand the rules. I just got a bit excited and forgot. Only Dalong can command the old workers in the village. I'll find a way for the manpower. Uncle Fu, I don't understand what you're saying. As a dignified second son of the family, how come I don't have the authority to command a few villagers? Is there some other reason? Please be honest with me. Erlang, this really can't be said, and try to minimize your contact with the people in the village. You're making me more confused. Why can't you say it? I want you to tell me, Zhang Xiaochuan insisted. This really isn't possible. Erlang, please don't pressure me. Zhang Xiaochuan knew that although Uncle Fu usually seemed submissive, he was actually a warrior who had fought alongside his father. If he was unwilling to discuss something, pushing him wouldn't help. So he decided not to press the issue any further. He then asked, earlier, Uncle Mo mentioned needing 10 pounds of iron. Can we buy it tomorrow? Upon hearing this, Uncle Fu had a troubled expression. Currently, iron costs 81 per pound, which means 10 pounds will cost 801. The little money we've made hasn't even warmed up yet, and now we have to spend it. What kind of business is this? We're spending more than we're earning, and it's still not enough. As soon as the topic of spending money came up, Uncle Fu entered his rant mode and even became a bit incoherent. Zhang Xiaochuan could only comfort him. It's necessary to invest in business. This way we can earn more in the future. If money is tight, we can ask Manager Huang for an advance on the goods. It shouldn't be a big problem. Then it has to be that way. It seems this large expense will have to wait a bit longer, Uncle Fu replied. Chapter 12. Reading disorder. It seems that I've been too busy these past couple of days. Even though I went to bed when it got dark, Zhang Xiaochuan still woke up late the next day, as there was no alarm clock. It felt nice to sleep until naturally waking up. He saw Uncle Fu returning with a few people. Upon closer inspection, besides Yaoer, there was a pair of middle-aged man and woman, and a frail young boy. Uncle Fu briefly introduced that this middle-aged couple are husband and wife. The man is named Su Daniu, while the woman, Ms. Liao, did not mention her name. So Uncle Fu suggested that Zhang Xiaochuan call her Su Sa. The young boy is their child, named Su Changming. The family fell into debt due to Su Changming's illness and sold all their land. Now they have no source of income. So Uncle Fu asked them to come and help. However, he was very cautious to prevent the leakage of the secret recipe for the chicken popcorn. He made the family sign a contract of servitude, which meant they would officially become part of his household. Although the Zhang family was a bit poor, they had a great reputation, and everyone in the surrounding area knew that the Zhang family was kind-hearted. Therefore, the couple was more than willing to join the Zhang family, as it provided them with a place to live and make a living. Unexpectedly, Uncle Fu also had a contract signed for the little beggar, and she surprisingly did not object. They just needed to submit the contract to the local authorities the next day to register their new status, and these individuals would officially become servants of the Zhang family. With the addition of Su Daniu's family, Zhang Xiaochuan felt much more relaxed. Uncle Fu took them to prepare the fried bamboo worms. With enough hands on deck, Yaoer, who could read, became a personal maid to take care of Zhang Xiaochuan's daily needs. After Yaoer cleaned herself up, Zhang Xiaochuan was quite surprised. He did not expect her to be such a cute little girl. From then on, having a beautiful maid by his side would feel much better than being followed around by the old man Uncle Fu. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself how he had indeed fallen into the decadence of this wicked old society. Feeling bored, Zhang Xiaochuan went to see Uncle Mo to check on the progress of the blacksmithing, but he was refused entry, which left him feeling quite embarrassed. Who was the master and who was the servant here? Was it true that skilled craftsmen in ancient times could disregard their employers? Since he was not allowed to enter, he had no choice but to return. During his free time, Zhang Xiaochuan started planning for the upcoming production and took out some paper that Uncle Fu had just bought to sketch some important facilities. Once he finished his tasks, Zhang Xiaochuan picked up a book from the table and casually flipped to a page to see what it was about. However, upon looking at the content, his eyes felt dizzy and the words appeared distorted. He thought he was overly tired and that his vision was blurry, so he closed his eyes to rest for a moment. When he looked at the book again, the content still seemed twisted and wavy, making it impossible for him to read. He quickly called Yaoer over and pointed to the words on the page, asking, "Can you see the words clearly?" Yaoer nodded. Zhang Xiaochuan looked again but still couldn't see clearly, so he said, "Then write down what you see." Yaoer picked up a pen and started writing. As soon as she completed the first character, Zhang Xiaochuan recognized it as Da. However, as she finished the second character, it began to blur. He quickly told her to stop, saying, "Wait, don't write anymore. Cover the first character." Although Yaoer found Zhang Xiaochuan a bit strange, she complied. Sure enough, when the first character was covered, Zhang Xiaochuan recognized it as Run, person. After pondering for a moment, he instructed, "Write the characters horizontally, from left to right." Yaoer followed Zhang Xiaochuan's instructions and wrote Ren Nio, one cow, and Ren Ma, one horse. After just these two phrases, Zhang Xiaochuan asked her to stop and stared blankly at the characters on the paper. Suddenly, he exclaimed, "I understand." Yaoer was startled, and Zhang Xiaochuan glanced at her, signaling her to step outside first. He discovered that this body he inhabited had a severe reading disability, which explained why he had struggled to grasp the basics of learning for so many years. However, he realized that reading horizontally didn't pose a problem, likely because his memories from another time had adapted to this style of reading, overcoming the obstacle. At last, he understood why he had been so ineffective at studying. But pursuing a career in officialdom was not his ambition. He preferred to live as a wealthy gentleman, free and easy, rather than get involved in the intrigues of the political arena. After several days of hard work, Uncle Mo finally delivered the goods. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the large, dark iron pot before him. The pot's mouth was perfectly round, and its body was a flawless half-sphere, as if made from a mold. Uncle Mo's craftsmanship was truly commendable. This was a purely handmade iron pot, something he had only seen in videos before. Anything labeled as handmade was considered high-end and premium. He couldn't bear to use such a pot himself, but unexpectedly, his first pot in this new world was indeed this one. Everything in this place was handmade, and mass-produced mechanical products were nowhere to be found. It was fascinating how time and place could change the definition and value of the same item. The iron pot rested on a smooth stone stove, and as Zhang Xiaochuan touched the stove, it felt like a journey back in time. It was almost identical to the earthen stove from his childhood home. The next step was to prepare this stove for cooking. New pots needed to be seasoned, which involved allowing oil to permeate the pot to create a protective layer. This treatment would prevent sticking and rusting. "Uncle Fu, start the fire." Zhang Xiaochuan called gravely from the stove. Uncle Fu, like a soldier receiving orders, immediately began to ignite the fire. Once the flames were roaring and the pot was heating up, Zhang Xiaochuan picked up the prepared fatty pork, pressed the skin down with chopsticks, ensuring the fat met the surface of the pot, producing a sizzling sound and a delightful aroma. He waited for the entire surface of the pot to be thoroughly infused with oil, then turned off the heat and let it cool for half a day before it could be used normally. This treatment made the pot less prone to sticking. After seasoning the pot, it was time to cook. Zhang Xiaochuan could hardly contain his excitement. After having eaten boiled dishes for so long, he was finally looking forward to tasting something with the essence of a properly cooked meal, and he couldn't help but swallow hard. Knowing that the large iron pot had arrived, he had asked Uncle Fu to invite Uncle Mo and his team for a meal the previous day, and he had also invited Manager Huang to discuss their upcoming collaboration. Manager Huang, upon hearing that Zhang Xiaochuan wanted him to come over for a meal to taste new dishes, was so excited that he barely slept the previous night. Finally, the next day arrived, and he rushed over early, clearly eager, although the food was not yet ready. Uncle Fu asked Manager Huang to wait in the main hall. Suddenly, there were sizzling, clanging, and brushing sounds coming from the kitchen, accompanied by delightful aromas. Manager Huang, feeling anxious, really wanted to sneak a peek. But the ancient customs placed great importance on the transmission of skills, and sneaking a look would be akin to stealing secrets. Moreover, Uncle Fu was watching closely, making it impossible for him to see anything. Chapter 013. Cooking with the iron pot. Manager Huang smelled a dish that he had never experienced before wafting from the kitchen, and it felt like a cat was clawing at his heart. He resolved that he would succeed in learning the craft no matter what. Fortunately, the difficult time has finally passed. At this moment, Uncle Mo and the others arrived, and Uncle Fu called them to take their seats, then began serving the dishes. The meal was quite simple, consisting of 4 dishes and 1 soup. The freshly cooked dishes were still emitting a delightful aroma, which was quite overwhelming for this group who had never seen stir-fried dishes before. They were all swallowing saliva in anticipation. At this time, Zhang Xiaochuan came over with a bowl of soup. Everyone stared at him eagerly, waiting for him to sit down and start the meal. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaochuan knew everyone was anxious to begin, so he prepared to sit down. However, he noticed that Su Daniu's family was still standing aside. It turned out that due to social hierarchy, they could not sit at the same table as Zhang Xiaochuan. Previously, Zhang Xiaochuan hadn't noticed them because he had been dining with Uncle Fu. Now, realizing the strict social distinctions of ancient times, he thought that as a modern person, he did not care about these things, and the concept of equality was deeply ingrained in him. Therefore, he said, Brother Su, you and your family should come and eat together. In this household, we are all family, so let us be more casual. Su Daniyu's family still tried to decline. But Zhang Xiaochuan pretended to get angry, and only then did Su Daniyu gratefully take a seat, as he had been salivating over the table of food. Zhang Xiaochuan sat down and said, I believe this is the first time for everyone to try these dishes. Let me introduce them. This first dish is stir-fried pork. Please enjoy. Saying this, he picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. Everyone quickly followed suit, and Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that without chili, it would be a failure. Manager Huang picked up a piece of meat and tasted it. The meat stir-fried in the iron pot had a unique charred aroma, slightly chewy, and combined with the salty and savory flavor of fermented black beans, it left a fragrant taste in Manager Huang's mouth, who exclaimed in delight. If the manager was impressed, one could only imagine how the others felt. Zhang Xiaochuan pointed to the second dish. This is braised carp. Please enjoy. However, after hearing this, everyone did not immediately take the dish but exchanged glances, looking somewhat puzzled. But this strange expression quickly faded, and then chopsticks swiftly reached for the braised carp. The third dish was mapo tofu, and the fourth was scrambled eggs with chives. After Zhang Xiaochuan introduced all the dishes, and everyone had tasted them, Manager Huang finally came back to his senses from the delicious meal and remembered what he had brought. Such delicious food. How can we not have some wine? Come, try the fine wine I've kept, Jinan Xiaochan. Saying this, he took out the wine and poured it for everyone. Upon hearing Jinan Xiaochan, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately perked up. This was the legendary imperial wine. In his previous life, he had never tasted such fine wine. To his surprise, after taking a sip, he realized he had truly never had such good wine before, as this imperial wine had a faint sour taste, and even the aftertaste was slightly sour. The texture was mediocre, and the alcohol content was not high, which was a waste of the pure grain brewing. However, judging by Manager Huang's expression, this wine must be quite precious, so he declined, saying he was still young and couldn't handle alcohol, only taking a little. Unexpectedly, Uncle Mo, Old Gong, and even Uncle Fu turned out to be wine enthusiasts, happily toasting and drinking with Manager Huang. After one meal, Manager Huang had no further doubts and agreed to the cooperation method proposed by Zhang Xiaochuan, but he still insisted on formally becoming a master, which Zhang Xiaochuan refused. It is estimated that after a few drinks, the old man Mo, before leaving, told Zhang Xiaochuan that they were not targeting him specifically. It was just that the general hoped Zhang Xiaochuan would not get entangled with them. This made Zhang Xiaochuan even more confused. The general must be referring to his father. But why would he want to distance himself? This question probably only his older brother could answer. Next, Zhang Xiaochuan imparted his limited cooking skills to Manager Huang without holding back and called over Uncle Fu and Sister Su to listen in. This way, he wouldn't have to cook at home anymore and could finally enjoy some home-cooked meals without lifting a finger. It was a relief. I have to say, Manager Huang is truly gifted. He grasped how to heat the wok, control the heat, and master the dishes with just a single demonstration. Cooking seemed to open a new door for him, and he succeeded on his first try. The flavor was already comparable to Zhang Xiaochuan's. It seems that while his understanding of using a cast iron wok and cooking techniques was still limited, it wouldn't be long before he surpassed Zhang Xiaochuan. Manager Huang's enthusiasm for cooking exceeded Zhang Xiaochuan's expectations. After several days of learning various dishes, Zhang Xiaochuan was patient, while Manager Huang was thoroughly enjoying himself, cooking over and over again. At first, everyone was happy because there was plenty of ready and free food, but as Manager Huang became obsessed, there was too much food to finish. Thankfully, there were still plenty of people around. The cast iron wok was clanging and smoking all day long, and Zhang Xiaochuan was genuinely worried that he might burn it through. Finally, after a few days, the stove for Fu Lai Lu was completed, and Zhang Xiaochuan quickly sent the cooking enthusiast back. A few more days passed, and Manager Huang's culinary skills had improved noticeably. He was now eager to showcase his talents to the diners, which is what every chef loves most, seeing satisfied expressions on the faces of customers enjoying the dishes they prepared. Today was the official launch of new dishes at Fu Lai Lu, and Zhang Xiaochuan had to check it out. As he walked down the street, he overheard people discussing it. Have you tried the Golden Crispy? Because the chicken popcorn was too strange, the Golden Crispy is the name given by Manager Huang. Absolutely. The texture is so crispy, and the flavor is incredible. It's simply exquisite. Even the wise would envy it. The wise haven't tried it either, Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself. That is right. But I heard that Fu Lai Lu has new dishes launching today. Then we must go try it. Let us go. There were many similar discussions, and plenty of people were heading toward Fu Lai Lu, indicating that Manager Huang's promotion was quite effective. In the back kitchen of Fu Lai Lu, a row of stoves shone brightly. Manager Huang was personally cooking, followed by two apprentices, with bowls and dishes already prepared on the table. With the supply of chicken popcorn, Fu Lai Lu's business had noticeably improved, and now with the launch of new dishes, the restaurant was filled with customers early on. With the recommendations from the waitstaff, the new dishes were being ordered by the guests. As various familiar dishes such as stir-fried chicken, braised pork, mapo tofu, and vinegar sautéed cabbage were served on the tables of the Tang people, Each dish was freshly cooked, still emitting steam, and the unique aroma of stir-frying wafted out into the streets. Observing the bustling restaurant and the satisfied diners, Zhang Xiaochuan not only saw the influx of coins, but also felt a deep sense of accomplishment, just as he was reveling in this moment. A hurried shout reached his ears. Erlang, Erlang, De Lang is back. You need to hurry home. It was Uncle Fu's voice. Upon hearing that his elder brother had returned, Zhang Xiaochuan hurriedly left without even saying goodbye to manager Huang. Upon returning to the estate, as soon as he entered the door, he saw Zhang Jingren in military attire, exuding a certain heroic spirit. Clearly, he had just returned from the barracks and hadn't changed his clothes, waiting for him in the main hall. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly approached to greet him. Greetings, elder brother. You seem much better after a few days. The food has been good lately, Zhang Xiaochuan joked. I heard you've not been studying properly, busy with trade, and even cooking. Zhang Jingren replied. Isn't it to earn some household expenses? Household expenses are naturally covered by my salary and fief. You don't need to worry about that. Just focus on your studies. I heard the teacher has recovered, and you will return to school tomorrow. But I'm not cut out for studying. Besides, can your salary really cover household expenses? Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't hold back any longer, expressing his frustration about their current financial state. He recalled that most of his brother's salary was spent on supporting the old soldiers, and they often faced difficulties in making ends meet. It was unreasonable for his brother to say he would bear the household expenses. Zhang Xiaochuan's words struck a nerve with Zhang Jingren, but he still replied firmly. The situation may be tough now, but once you succeed in your studies, you won't need to top the imperial examination, as long as you have some literary skills. I'll use my connections in the capital to find you a position. With a salary, your problems will be solved. It seemed that his elder brother was still unaware of his condition and held hope for his academic success. This needed to be made clear, otherwise, he would be endlessly pressured to study. Therefore, he said, Elder brother, I have a condition. Xiaochuan, what's wrong? Uncle Fu, quickly call for Uncle Yan. Zhang Xiaochuan's declaration startled Zhang Jingren, who immediately wanted to summon the doctor to check on him, showing that he truly cared. Seeing Uncle Fu about to find the doctor, Zhang Xiaochuan quickly stopped him and said to Zhang Jingren, it's not the kind of illness you think. Let me finish explaining. My condition is related to studying. It's called reading disorder. To put it simply, whenever I look at books, my eyes blur, and the words seem to move around, making it impossible for me to understand. I know this is hard to believe. I believe you. Huh, you believe me? Zhang Xiaochuan was taken aback, having prepared many explanations for this matter. He wondered how his brother could believe him so easily. After all, this was a reading disorder, and he had only come to accept it after much mental preparation. However, Zhang Jingren did not let Zhang Xiaochuan remain confused for long and explained, actually, my father also had this symptom. He used to tell many people that the characters he saw would move, but no one believed him. He still had this on his mind when he passed away. Only I firmly believed what he said, and I didn't expect you to be the same as him. It's been tough for you all these years being pushed to study. Thank you for your understanding, big brother. I'll go tell the teacher that I won't be attending the private school anymore and will stay at home to focus on business. Zhang Xiaochuan said happily. No, you can skip the private school, but you can't do business anymore. After all, it's a lowly profession. I will ask Uncle Fu to teach you martial arts. Since you can't pursue literature, you should enter the military, Zhang Jingren replied. Big brother, what are you talking about? You encouraged me to study literature to stay away from the battlefield. You know I am weak and can't handle martial affairs. I absolutely cannot agree to this. It's hard-earned to not have to go to school anymore. How could I possibly go practice martial arts? What do you want to do if you don't practice martial arts? Do you intend to do this lowly profession for life? Zhang Jingren's tone started to become stern when he saw Zhang Xiaochuan's disagreement. Zhang Xiaochuan's temper flared. What lowly profession? How can a profession be considered lowly? If it can earn money and provide a stable life, how can it be lowly? It's the old scholars who label it as such. Once you have money, what does lowly or noble matter? Even if you earn money, others will still look down on you. After all, you're just a merchant. Zhang Jingren insisted on his opinion and countered. That's because you don't understand how much a merchant can earn. As long as you have enough money, respect will naturally follow. Didn't Lu Buwei rise from being a merchant to becoming a chancellor? Zhang Xiaochuan thought he could not compromise on this matter and needed to persuade his brother. Zhang Jingren did not believe that Zhang Xiaochuan could earn a lot of money, so he proudly said, Oh, how much is enough? If you can earn more than my salary, I won't stop you. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, earning more than your salary is a basic operation, big brother. You're digging a pit for yourself, so don't blame me. He then asked, I wonder how much your salary is, big brother? Zhang Jingren proudly replied, with my fief, salary, and various allowances, it totals nearly 200 coins a year. And nearly half of this 200 coins comes from noble titles, which is essentially inherited fortune. It has nothing to do with him. With this little money, it's practically a joke. Zhang Xiaochuan thought that even based on his previous earnings from selling fried bamboo worms, he could make over 260 coins a year. Not to mention now, with a restaurant sharing profits, judging by today's momentum, a tenfold increase in revenue is not a problem. With a pure profit margin of about 30%, that would be over 700 coins. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan deep in thought, Zhang Jingren mistakenly believed he was overwhelmed by the amount of money, feeling a sense of pity for his brother's impending embarrassment. Uncle Fu, witnessing Zhang Jingren's expression of pity, couldn't bear to look, thinking about how painful it would be for him to be slapped in the face later. Ultimately, Zhang Xiaochuan decided to be conservative and reported half of his estimate to his brother, holding up 3 fingers and saying, 300 coins. A year for 300 coins? So much. Zhang Jingren exclaimed, looking at Uncle Fu, as if to say, tell me this is a lie. At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan's voice came through again, 300 coins a month. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Clearly, this figure had a significant impact on the elder brother. After a moment, he still found it hard to believe and confirmed again, really? Really? Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to seize the opportunity to persuade the elder brother further, a knock was heard at the door. Uncle Fu went to open it, and soon there were hurried footsteps along with the voice of Manager Huang. Teacher, teacher. Hey Huang, didn't I tell you not to call me teacher? Ever since teaching Manager Huang some cooking skills, their titles had become much more familiar. Moreover, Manager Huang was only in his early 20s, not much older than Zhang Xiaochuan, so Zhang affectionately called him Huang Fatty, a name he readily accepted. Huang Fatty insisted, Mr. Deming passed on this amazing cooking method to me, so calling you teacher is only fitting. Whatever you say. Shouldn't you be busy at the store right now? Why the rush to come here? Oh, don't get me started. Manager Huang said with a frustrated expression, I didn't expect this stir-fry to be so popular. We ran out of ingredients too soon. I just finished up and came to share the good news with you. A smile could hardly be hidden on Manager Huang's face. Then come in and say it. Just as Manager Huang was about to speak, he suddenly saw the elder brother and quickly greeted him. Greetings, Mr. Qingqing. I didn't know County Zhang was also here. My apologies. No problem. Zhang Jingren waved his hand to indicate it was fine. Seeing Zhang Jingren present, Manager Huang hesitated. But Zhang Xiaochuan encouraged him to speak freely. With a slightly mysterious tone, Manager Huang said, this is all thanks to your suggestion, raising the price of the dishes. We sold a plate of vegetables at the price of lamb, and people were still fighting to buy it. Do you know how much we made today? Observing Manager Huang's smug expression, Zhang Xiaochuan replied irritably, I don't know, just tell me. Manager Huang, no longer keeping the suspense, said, today's revenue was 188 strings and 200 coins. After saying this, he waited eagerly for Zhang Xiaochuan's surprise, but instead, Zhang Xiaochuan remained calm. However, Zhang Jingren's astonishment came. What did you say? He exclaimed in disbelief. You made nearly 200 strings in one day? Chapter 15, Bye. The elder brother's shock shout startled Huang Fatty. The latter felt a bit embarrassed by the follow-up clarification. It's not that much profit. That's the total revenue. And the actual profit is just over 100 strings. That's about what I expected, Zhang Xiaochuan interjected at the right moment. I was rude, before. We only had over 500 strings in revenue for the whole month. If we had been better prepared today, earning 300 to 500 strings in a day wouldn't be out of the question, so I got a bit carried away. No worries. Did you come all the way here just to tell me this? Actually, hearing the number reported by Manager Huang also shocked Zhang Xiaochuan. He had guessed that this stir-fry would definitely be popular, but he didn't expect it to exceed his expectations by so much. A few days ago, didn't you say you urgently needed money? I brought you 300 strings to use for now, Huang Fatty said, seeing Zhang Xiaochuan nodding in satisfaction. He continued, also, my helper still needs more experience. I'm quite overwhelmed by myself, so I want to ask Sister Su to help at the store. Zhang Xiaochuan did not answer directly, but instead called Su Sa to ask for her opinion. Su Sa had no objections, as women from poor families do not have much concern about appearing in public. Once the matter was settled, Huang Pengzi hurriedly left again, as he still needed to prepare the ingredients for tomorrow. At this time, Fu Bo was counting the money and goods. The reason it was referred to as money and goods was that the 300 guan was just a figure of speech. In reality, most of it was silk fabric, with only a few copper coins. With this 300 guan, the previous plans could be advanced. Zhang Xiaochuan was thinking as he walked into the room, only to bump into his older brother, who was still in a daze. At this moment, Zhang Jingren's mind was in turmoil. Who am I? Where am I? My annual salary as a 5th-rank official is still less than what my younger brother earns in a day of mischief. Seeing his brother looking so defeated, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't tease him further, but it was crucial to finalize the business matters. Brother, it has been proven that doing business is indeed a good path. I hope you won't stop me from pursuing it in the future. Zhang Jingren wanted to advise again, but thinking about how he had already lost face, he found it hard to speak up. Since the decision was made, he might as well let it go. Now that his younger brother was making money, he would have to rely on him for the provisions of the old soldiers. Thus, he said to Zhang Xiaochuan, all right, I won't stop you from doing business anymore. But brother, I'm tight on funds. Could you help me out a bit? Zhang Jingren felt that this sounded too direct, and almost like he was threatening Zhang Xiaochuan. So he quickly added, it's not that I want to take your money. It's just that the old soldiers at the farm are indeed out of supplies. Think of it as borrowing from you. Since he mentioned the old soldiers, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but voice his doubts. Brother, there's no issue with the money. And let us not talk about borrowing. After all, we are family. However, I have some questions I hope you can clarify. Zhang Jingren seemed to see through what Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to ask, and awkwardly said, it's better that you don't know about the old soldiers' backgrounds. Just don't get too close to them. I hope you understand, this is all for your own good. Zhang Xiaochuan hated that phrase the most. Everything is for my own good. I know what's good for me, but seeing his older brother, a battle-hardened general, with a flushed face asking for money, almost on the verge of tears, he felt it was inappropriate to press further. Instead, he suggested, then can I arrange for some old soldiers to help me out? Zhang Jingren thought for a moment, and said, that's fine. But you have to agree to a few conditions. First, let Fu Bo relay the tasks to the old soldiers. Don't arrange it yourself. Second, the old soldiers must not leave the farm-s boundaries. It felt like these old soldiers were being treated like quarantine personnel. The more mysterious they were made, the more curious he became. But for now, just getting the old soldiers to help would save a lot of money and avoid confidentiality issues. So he agreed, deal. I'll give you 100 guan first, and when the profit comes, I'll pay you back. Thank you so much, Xiaochuan. What are brothers for? Brother, you're not heading back to the military camp today, right? I need to wait a couple of days before I set off. I suppose you haven't tried stir-fried dishes yet. I'll have Fu Bo prepare a feast for you to enjoy. After the elder brother tasted the stir-fried dishes in the evening, his expression clearly indicated that he found the flavors delightful. However, it wasn't the ravenous devouring that Zhang Xiaochuan had imagined. Instead, he ate more slowly, as if the food had lost its flavor. He did drink quite a bit, though Zhang Xiaochuan abstained, telling his elder brother that he was too young. But in truth, he couldn't handle the sour taste of the alcohol. By the end of the meal, he sensed a deep loneliness in his elder brother, which surely wasn't due to the food. His elder brother must have had something on his mind. Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to ask, but knowing his elder brother's stubborn nature, it would likely be futile if he didn't want to share. Zhang Xiaochuan was out shopping with Uncle Fu and Yaoer, driven by the simple desire to spend money. Ever since their last trip walking to sell chicken popcorn, Zhang Xiaochuan had decided that the first thing to do when he had money was to buy a horse-drawn carriage. Walking was too painful for modern people, not just the physical exhaustion, but the thought of a journey that used to take just a few minutes now taking several hours felt like a pure waste of life. So, the first stop was the carriage shop. Inside the carriage shop, Zhang Xiaochuan spotted a robust horse and said, "This one." "Thank you, sir. The horse and carriage together will be 30 strings of silk." Uncle Fu reluctantly pulled out 30 pieces of silk from the carriage to pay for it. As Zhang Xiaochuan sat in the carriage, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Now I'm also a person with a fine horse and carriage." "Erlang, where are we going next?" Uncle Fu asked, looking at the remaining silk and realizing they couldn't escape their fate today. Still, he wanted to understand, so he inquired. Seeing Uncle Fu's expression, Zhang Xiaochuan chuckled. "Uncle Fu, cheer up. Money is meant to be spent. As the saying goes, money is like a fleeting thing. If it's gone, just earn more." The next stop was the clothing store. In the clothing store, Uncle Fu hesitated and was reluctant to buy new clothes. But Zhang Xiaochuan insisted. He could see that Uncle Fu was like a parent from his past life. How could he not want new clothes? It was just that he was reluctant to spend the money. This thought made Zhang Xiaochuan feel a twinge of melancholy, but he quickly let it go. There was no point in self-pity. Since they were here, they might as well enjoy it. He decided to live a little more freely in this life. Yaoer, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. She wanted everything: clothes, jewelry, and cosmetics, buying whatever caught her eye. Zhang Xiaochuan happily followed behind her, watching her lively and adorable demeanor. With a wave of his hand, he had everything bundled up. Uncle Fu stepped forward to stop Yaoer from continuing her shopping spree. Moreover, after Yaoer changed into a fitting dress, Zhang Xiaochuan was taken aback. This little girl was indeed a beauty in the making, even if she was still young and had yet to fully blossom. Zhang Xiaochuan bought new clothes and shoes for his elder brother, sister-in-law, and even Su Daniu's family, prompting Uncle Fu to exclaim about his extravagance. As Zhang Xiaochuan continued to spend, Uncle Fu's blood pressure seemed to rise even further in the general store. "Sir, salt is 800 won per dough." "Oh, then I'll take a stone." "What is the price for bran?" "Sir, 80 won per dough." "Then I'll take a cart." "How much for stone ash?" 1,500 won per dough." "Oh, I'll take a stone." "Sir, we don't have that much." "Then give me whatever you have." "What is the price for blue vitriol?" Zhang Xiaochuan, although he has theoretical knowledge of what he needs to do next, still requires experimental validation and attempts. The materials he purchased are still being kept. But Fu Bo feels that Zhang Xiaochuan is wasting money. It's said that the 200 coins he spent could buy a house in a second-tier city in later times, which is at least over $1 million. For an ordinary person to spend over $1 million on miscellaneous items in a single day does seem a bit extravagant. As the saying goes, spending money is momentarily satisfying, but repaying it can be painful. Although Zhang Xiaochuan doesn't have to worry about repayment in a literal sense, his ears do suffer, as the 200 coins have nearly run out, prompting Fu Bo to enter his relentless nagging mode. "Erlang, I need to have a serious talk with you. You can't spend money like this. Although this money came easily, it can't sustain such expenses," Fu Bo admonishes. Zhang Xiaochuan, who has ample experience with parental nagging from his past life, knows that he absolutely must not retort at this moment. Otherwise, he would fall into an endless cycle. Keeping silent is the best way to make the nagging stop after a while. Seeing that Zhang Xiaochuan doesn't engage, Fu Bo continues. "I've lived this long, and it's the first time I've had so much money in hand, and it's the first time I've seen you spend like this. You bought 3 or 5 sets of clothes at a time. In previous years, you would only make one for the new year. Salt is bought by the stone. How long do you plan to eat it? It's only been a day, and you've already spent nearly all of the 200 coins. Zhang Xiaochuan remained silent. Don't blame Fu Bo for nagging. Money should be spent carefully and saved for household use. You aren't married yet, and there will be plenty of places to spend money in the future. Zhang Xiaochuan continues to stay silent. Sigh, Fu Bo falls silent as well. Chapter 16. The withdrawal of the engagement a day earlier at the Chao family estate. You can leave. The young lady will not see you. The person inside coldly told Zhang Jingren. Chao Guanjia. Please help me pass on the message. I believe Xiao Qin will see me. I will leave after just one meeting. Zhang Jingren pleaded. However, Chao Guanjia didn't even look at him and was about to close the door. At that moment, Zhang Jingren's subordinate couldn't stand it any longer. Blocking the closing door, grabbing Chao Guanjia by the collar, and shouting, "You are being unreasonable. Our general has a good temper and won't hold it against you. We are not to be trifled with. Just pass on the message, or I will break your bones." Chao Guanjia was quite frightened, worried that these unruly soldiers might actually harm him, so he softened his tone. "Zhang Xiannan, please don't make it difficult for me." This is what the young lady instructed. Seeing Zhang Jingren's signal to release him, he continued. "You know in your heart that the young lady has been accustomed to a life of luxury. How could she endure hardship with you? She doesn't even have a servant to assist her. Why won't the young lady see you? You should think it over." Although Chao Guanjia's tone wasn't as cold this time, his sarcastic remarks felt even more uncomfortable. Zhang Jingren seemed to be reflecting on the steward's words and reminiscing about his past with Chao Shiqin. Noticing Zhang Jingren's lack of response, the steward hurriedly closed the door, leaving Zhang Jingren outside. Seeing the Chao family being so unreasonable, his subordinate said, "General, how dare this commoner disrespect you? Let's go in and teach them a lesson to vent your anger." Zhang Jingren stopped his subordinate and paused for a moment before reluctantly leaving. At that time, in a side room of the backyard, Chao Mu was speaking to Zhang Jingren's wife, Chao Qin. "Qiner, why do you have to suffer like this?" Chao Qin, with tear stains on her face, clearly had just been crying. Chao Mu expressed her grievances on behalf of her daughter, saying that she should never have married her to him, questioning how much hardship she had endured over the years with him. "My husband treats me very well. I have never suffered any grievances," Chao Qin replied. "Never suffered grievances? Let me ask you, what about your dowry? How many times have you had to ask for money when you returned home? It's not that I care about this little money, but a dignified noble still relies on his wife to go back to her family for money to get by. What does that look like?" The more Chao Mu spoke, the angrier she became. "You said you married into the Zhang family thinking they were noble and had connections that could help our family business progress. But who knew he would be so stubborn, offending so many people in his official capacity, causing our family business to suffer?" Hearing her mother speak so poorly of Zhang Jingren, Chao Qin quickly defended him, saying, "Mother, please don't blame my husband. He has his reasons." Chao Mu, sharp-toned, continued, "Reasons? What reasons? I see it as just stubbornness. Take this opportunity to sever ties with him completely, and from now on, our Chao family will have nothing to do with the Zhang family." "Mother, you can't do this. Please don't tear me apart from my husband," Chao Qin pleaded. "No, the divorce documents have already been drafted. You just need to sign them. And I will have Wei deliver them tomorrow. From then on, we part ways." "Mother, please." Chao Qin wanted to plead again, but was ruthlessly interrupted. "Don't forget. This is what you promised me. I will give him money, and you will divorce him." Chao Mu added, "Your cousin will be back in a while. It's rare that he doesn't mind you being married before. You just wait at home to get married again, and don't cause any trouble." "I don't agree to this marriage, and I will not divorce my husband," Chao Qin insisted, trying to make one last struggle. "That is not up to you," Chao Mu said with a resolute face, leaving no room for negotiation. Back to the present, in the Zhang family, a slightly overweight young man, dressed well, was sitting in the main hall, speaking nonstop. "Zhang Jingren, you were a noble, which is why my sister was married to you. Who would have thought you would raise a house full of idlers? My sister, following you, not only does not live a good life, but also has to toil every day." Given the way he addressed Zhang Jingren, it was very disrespectful, but Zhang Jingren remained silent. Listening to the overweight youth continue, "You say my sister is one of the top beauties in the area. How have you treated her? If you had any ability, you wouldn't be selling her dowry. Now that the dowry is sold out, you expect my sister to go back to her family for money. How can you support her with such a deficit?" It seems this fat man is Zhang Jingren's brother-in-law, Chao Wei, who, seeing Zhang Jingren's silence, became even more animated. "Even if you're poor, you still make a fuss. Look at your foolish brother. After 7 years of schooling, he still hasn't learned anything, and still wants to study. Even donating the title's estate for it. A sense of wastefulness should come with being a waste, so it's better to stay home and farm. You don't deserve to study at all. Enough." A thunderous sound came from behind Chao Wei, startling him to stumble. Just a moment ago he was so arrogant. And now he was completely meek. "You shouldn't mention Xiaochuan. If you have nothing else to say, then please leave." Clearly, Zhang Xiaochuan was a sore spot for Zhang Jingren. He couldn't allow anyone to insult his brother like that. "Alright, let us get to the point." After being startled, Chao Wei didn't dare to bring up Zhang Xiaochuan again for fear of angering Zhang Jingren. He pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket and slapped it on the table. "This is a divorce document. My sister has already signed it. So please sign it as well. Let us part amicably. And don't say that our family lacks compassion. As compensation, here's a full 50 guan, which is equivalent to your annual salary." Seeing this, Chao Wei didn't dare to be too arrogant and softened his tone. "I'm sorry for hurting Qiner, but I want to sign it. I want to see her. I don't believe she wants to divorce me." It was evident that Qiner was also Zhang Jingren's weak point. When Zhang Jingren admitted fault, Chao Wei immediately became arrogant again. "A meeting is impossible. Have you considered that you're bringing this bunch of people along?" He initially wanted to say burden, but fearing Zhang Jingren's wrath, he changed his wording, saying these old soldiers are just a drag. "How can you support such a large group? Should my sister keep sending money from home to support you? It would be better for her if you cut ties sooner." Zhang Xiaochuan, who had just returned, witnessed all of this. Seeing it, He understood why the noble house was so poor. Originally, a county lord's salary should be substantial, but if they were supporting hundreds of people, it would indeed be a strain. As for the noble house, they had even donated their home to support his education, which truly touched Zhang Xiaochuan. At the same time, he also grasped the context. His older brother's poor complexion yesterday was likely due to this matter concerning his sister-in-law. Perhaps because of the merging of memories from his previous life, he felt an intense sense of humiliation at this moment, wanting to uphold his brother's dignity and protect their family. Chapter 017. Let me take him down. Seeing that his brother remained silent, Chao Wei scolded, Zhang Jingren. You're such a coward. If you don't sign this divorce letter today, we'll see each other in court. Look at you. A dignified lord who can't even support his wife. How embarrassing. Chao Wei's arrogance thoroughly angered everyone, but since Zhang Jingren hadn't spoken, they were hesitant to take action. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't care less about that. He couldn't hold back any longer. He charged forward and kicked Chao Wei in the backside, causing him to stagger. Just as he steadied himself and turned to see who had attacked him, Zhang Xiaochuan threw a punch that made Chao Wei's chubby face shake, and he fell backward to the ground. Zhang Xiaochuan intended to pin him down and hit him a couple more times, but was pulled back by his brother from behind. For some reason, both the Zhang Xiaochuan from before his crossing and the current one were timid in nature. However, after crossing over, he found his temper had grown, and he had become more decisive. For example, just now when he hit Chao Wei, the former him would have never dared to act. Though Zhang Xiaochuan was being held back, he refused to give up. Brother, let go of me. Today, I'm going to take this guy down. Seeing his brother hold on tight, Zhang Xiaochuan added, Brother, I won't do anything. Just let me go. Indeed, this time it worked. Zhang Jingren released Zhang Xiaochuan. At this moment, Chao Wei had also gotten up from the ground, his mouth still dirty. You dare to hit me. Just wait, this matter is not over. Taking advantage of Zhang Jingren's distraction, Zhang Xiaochuan rushed to Chao Wei's side, snatched the document, and tore it to shreds. How dare you treat our county's male officials like clay? Go back and obediently return my sister-in-law, or you will regret it. Seeing that things were not going well, Chao Wei prepared to leave. Zhang Xiaochuan immediately signaled Uncle Fu to block Chao Wei, intending to take action against him. Zhang Jingren, noticing this, waved Uncle Fu away and told him to let Chao Wei go. He then said to Chao Wei, I won't sign the divorce papers until I see Qiner. After saying that, he turned and went back inside. Chao Wei, seeing this, did not dare to linger any longer and hurriedly left. He wanted to say something harsh, but upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's unfriendly expression, he chose to flee immediately. Zhang Xiaochuan went inside to check on his elder brother, intending to offer some words of comfort, but unsure of what to say. When his elder brother saw him come in, he knew he was worried and said, I'm fine. I still have to go to the garrison later. You take care of things at home. Don't worry, elder brother, they will bring back my sister-in-law in 3 days. All right. Thank you, Xiaochuan. It was clear that his elder brother took Zhang Xiaochuan's words as mere consolation. After speaking, Zhang Xiaochuan stepped outside. Though he said that, Zhang Xiaochuan still had no concrete plan. He called Uncle Fu to find out what kind of business the Chao family was in. After listening, he came up with an idea. He then called for Yaoer, drew some pictures that Yaoer couldn't understand, and explained the purpose of each picture, asking her to write descriptions next to them. This way, Zhang Xiaochuan could save a lot of trouble, and he could easily find someone to write for him. Such was the wicked old society, quite enjoyable. Everything was ready, and he just needed to go to the Chao family. The next morning, not seeing his elder brother, he assumed he had already returned to the military camp, so he called Uncle Fu to follow him to find the old soldiers. Uncle Fu initially wanted to advise him, but seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's determination, he knew it was futile, so he refrained from wasting his breath, as the old soldiers wouldn't pay him any mind anyway. Sure enough, Uncle Fu brought Zhang Xiaochuan to find old Moer, telling him he needed 20 spirited old soldiers to go out and handle some matters. Old Moer didn't even ask for the reason and flatly refused. Zhang Xiaochuan thought it best to clarify. Uncle Mo, it's better to hear my reasons before you refuse. Whatever the reason, I believe that De Wang has already told you. We cannot leave the village to handle matters. Old Moer expressed his difficulty, and their conversation attracted more old soldiers. Zhang Xiaochuan addressed the gathered old soldiers. I believe everyone has heard about the Chao family's proposal to withdraw from the engagement yesterday. I am going to the Chao family to reclaim our dignity today. I don't know what special reasons you all have, but everyone has a heart. My elder brother is so destitute that he can't even protect his own wife. Don't you all have any sense about this? Hearing this, some old soldiers began to show signs of shame. They all knew that for many years, it was Zhang Jingren who had been supporting a large group of them. As the saying goes, whoever's bowl you eat from, that's who you serve. It is a great shame for a man from a county to be rejected in marriage, and it is indeed inappropriate for those who usually rely on the Zhang family to observe this coldly. Zhang Xiaochuan was genuinely furious. Not to mention that these old soldiers were no different from his own troops in ancient times, even in later generations, if I supported you daily. Yet you remained silent while my family was bullied. Could you still be considered a man? Zhang Xiaochuan continued angrily. Don't talk to me about things I don't know. What we are going to do today doesn't really depend on you. But I just can't stand it. You all watch my family being humiliated, and you still call yourselves men? I can't stand your cowardly behavior. Zhang Xiaochuan initially thought the old soldiers might glare at him or even resort to violence, but instead, there was a collective silence. At that moment, Uncle Fu explained on their behalf. Erlang, don't blame them. They have their own reasons. I believe they feel uncomfortable about the Zhang family being insulted. And I think your elder brother hasn't blamed them either. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan felt overwhelmed. These guys were being so secretive. Could they be plotting a rebellion? He thought too much. He had never seen a poorer rebel than this. Forget it. He couldn't be bothered with them. Today, he would make his money and enjoy his wealthy lifestyle, regardless of them. At that moment, an old soldier spoke up. Fu Tu, don't explain for us. No matter the reason, the Zhang family shouldn't have to endure such humiliation. Then he turned to Zhang Xiaochuan and said, Lang, count me in. Whether you want me to kill or set fire, I, Wei Laosan, will do it. Count me in. Me too. One after another, the old soldiers stood up. And Imo Lauer waved his sleeve. I can't hear properly. Lao Yan, come take a look. Lao Yan, Lao Yan. They shouted and walked away. Everyone understood each other without needing to say more. The old soldier's response made Zhang Xiaochuan very happy. First, it showed that they still cared about the Zhang family. And second, this incident had broken down barriers between them. Some things are like a cat that has never tasted fish, it can hold back. But once it has had that first taste, there will be countless times after. Looking at the crowd, Zhang Xiaochuan thought that if too many people went to the Chao family, they might think he was out to eliminate them completely, which would not be good. So he chose 20 particularly burly old soldiers and swaggered towards the Chao family village. Upon arriving at the Chao family, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't knock on the door. He directly ordered Wei Laosan to have the gate torn down. With a loud crash, the gate of the Chao family fell, and the doorman trembled in fear. Zhang Xiaochuan stood at the entrance, looking like a rogue, and shouted, Get someone in charge out here. Zhang Xiaochuan has arrived. The doorman, realizing that Zhang Xiaochuan was the second son of the Zhang family, hurried to the back courtyard, shouting, It's bad. It's bad. The Zhang family is killing people. Zhang Xiaochuan's expression darkened. He thought, What do you mean by killing people? This is ridiculous. However, he didn't linger and directly led his people inside. He went to the main hall, pulled over a table, and sat down, as there wasn't a proper seat available yet, and kneeling wouldn't convey the right authority. The head of the Chao family and his wife rushed over, followed by a group of servants and maids. Zhang Xiaochuan was sitting at a table by the door in a pretentious manner, while 2 rows of sturdy men stood outside, flanking the entrance. Although they appeared to be in their 40s or 50s, it was clear they were fierce warriors. In comparison, the people brought by the head of the Chao family looked inadequate. However, seeing Zhang Xiaochuan sitting there, the head of the Chao family mustered his courage and approached him. Questioning, Erling, what do you intend to do? Zhang Xiaochuan glanced sideways at the head of the Chao family and replied with a tilt of his chin. What do you mean by intent? I'm just here to visit. Can't my little uncle come to my sister-in-law's family for a visit? Hearing this, the head of the Chao family was infuriated, thinking to himself, Is this a visit? You've practically torn down the door. You're clearly here to cause trouble. Yet, concerned that provoking Zhang Xiaochuan might lead to irreparable consequences, he restrained his anger and decided to play it cautiously, adjusting his demeanor to appear dignified. Since you are a guest, please take a seat and let us talk, he said, gesturing towards a nearby chair. Zhang Xiaochuan slowly stood up, and the head of the Chao family thought he was going to sit down. Just as he relaxed, Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly slapped him across the face. The head of the Chao family staggered back, completely stunned by the blow. Along with the physical pain came a wave of humiliation. Just as he was about to explode in anger, Zhang Xiaochuan's voice cut through. This slap is for my father, and let me remind you. The county's male officials are also of noble lineage. Not just anyone can insult them. Remember this. Today, I could slap you, or even kill you. And I could easily find a servant to take the blame. No one would truly risk their neck for a merchant like you. Feeling a chill run down his spine, the head of the Chao family realized that if this reckless youth truly called for someone to kill him, he would be easily replaced by a servant. And no one would dare offend a noble, even a fallen one. In the past, Zhang Jingren had been overly tolerant, which made him think the Zhang family could be easily manipulated. Now, Zhang Xiaochuan's actions made the head of the Chao family understand that this was a tiger with teeth. It was just a matter of whether it wanted to bite. Of course, Zhang Xiaochuan had no intention of actually killing anyone. Having made his point, he decided not to continue tormenting the head of the Chao family. Alright, uncle, I was just joking with you. And I wanted you to know that being slapped in the face isn't pleasant. At this moment, the head of the Chao family was cursing Zhang Xiaochuan's ancestors in his mind, thinking, Is it okay for me to slap you as a joke? Yet he didn't dare to express his anger, and still, he retorted, Erlang, that's quite a big joke. I can't handle it. Alright, I won't joke anymore. But the Chao family shouldn't come over to the Zhang family to joke around either, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. At this point, the head of the Chao family felt a deep sense of grievance and couldn't help but say, the Chao family is also forced into this. Who would want to pressure their daughter into divorce and remarry? Divorce and remarry. Zhang Xiaochuan abruptly interrupted, catching onto the key phrase. If it weren't for this old man slipping up, he wouldn't have known that his sister-in-law's new partner was already found. The Chao family was truly despicable. Seeing the head of the Chao family's reddening face, he wondered if he had gone too easy on him earlier. Old man, you better clarify what you mean by divorce and remarry. If you dare to hide a word, I might just lose my mind, and even I would be scared. The head of the Chao family has realized that he misspoke, but unfortunately it's too late. Zhang Xiaochuan has heard everything clearly. He thought to himself, wasn't it said that this kid hadn't learned anything after 9 years of schooling? How come he is so sharp, just like a monkey? Indeed. Rumors can't be trusted. Since it has come to this, it's better to be straightforward. After all, the Zhang family has some responsibility too. Erlang, don't be anxious. Let me explain it to you in detail. It turns out that the Chow family is in the business of extracting salt from wells. Well salt is produced by extracting brine from underground through well drilling. There are two types, official merchants and private merchants. Official merchants are akin to state-owned enterprises. While private merchants are self-explanatory, private investments to drill wells for salt, with the government only collecting taxes. Although the taxes are high, the profit margins are substantial. However, there is also a risk here. During the Tang dynasty, while salt was extracted from shallow wells, characterized by larger well diameters and significant investment in excavation. If brine isn't found, it's a total loss. If, by luck, brine is found, it's not an endless supply. Who knows when the brine might run out? Therefore, whether an investment in a salt well will be profitable and how much it can earn involves a large element of luck. Originally, the Chow family was a small landlord. By the time of the current head, he invested his entire fortune to open a salt well, and he was relatively fortunate to find brine just as his assets were nearly depleted. However, luck was only SOSO, as this well had an average yield of brine. The Chow family has been extracting salt for over a decade, and although they made a good amount of money, they didn't become rich from it. But now, this well has encountered problems. The brine yield is decreasing and is at risk of depletion. Great. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but exclaim, as this meant that the preparations he made could be maximized. This infuriated the head of the Chow family. My family's salt well is about to dry up. And you're actually celebrating? He asked with irritation. Zhang Xiaochuan showed an awkward expression and awkwardly replied, I mean, isn't this a bad thing? He then signaled for the head of the Chow family to continue. The head of the Chow family thought to himself, I've already been embarrassed. What is the point of mocking me? He continued his narrative. The Chow family plans to open another salt well, but they need to find a good site to reduce the risk significantly. There is a relatively good site in the jurisdiction of Zhang Jingren's office. But the stubborn Zhang Jingren refused to be biased, resulting in it being claimed by other merchants with official backgrounds. Now they must seek other solutions. Coincidentally, Chao Qin's cousin is in charge of the salt well operations in Rongzhou and can speak on this matter, and her cousin has always had feelings for Chao Qin. So you're planning to sell your daughter for a salt well and set your sights on my Zhang family? Zhang Xiaochuan timely interrupted the head of the Chao family and questioned. The head of the Chao family sighed. This is truly a helpless move. If only your elder brother could help us out, we wouldn't be in this situation now. The head of the Chao family retorted, unwilling to back down. Your elder brother is indeed a bit unreasonable, Zhang Xiaochuan muttered to himself. Little did he know, the head of the Chao family had excellent hearing and caught every word. He followed up, see, you've admitted it. This matter really can't be blamed on our Chao family. Zhang Xiaochuan immediately played the rogue, saying, admit what? You're actually forcing my sister-in-law to divorce over such a trivial matter. Alright, I didn't come here to argue about this. The head of the Chao family thought to himself that this was a trivial matter, but it was actually related to the survival of the family. However, talking to this young man about it was pointless. He decided not to beat around the bush with Zhang Xiaochuan and wanted to send him off sooner rather than later. So he said, well, I just wonder what brings you here today. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled slightly at the head of the Chao family and pretentiously said, I'm here to give you some popular science knowledge. Popular science? What does that mean? The head of the Chao family completely did not understand and thought that this young man was just messing with him. Zhang Xiaochuan pretended to be profound. That's not important. What's important is, do you know where the brine in the salt well comes from? Of course, it seeps from the underground rock layers. What on earth are you trying to say? The head of the Chao family dismissed Zhang Xiaochuan's question, thinking this was nonsense and that he didn't need the young man to teach him. Zhang Xiaochuan continued to ask, then where does the brine in the rock layers come from? I don't know. The head of the Chao family was beginning to grow impatient. Was this young man really just playing games with him? Zhang Xiaochuan ignored the head of the Chao family's annoyed expression and continued to speak mysteriously. Have you been to the sea? Do you know why seawater is salty? The head of the Chao family did not want to answer such boring questions anymore and urged, just get to the point. He was genuinely anxious. Who had the time to indulge a teenager in idle chatter? He wanted to leave, but was afraid Zhang Xiaochuan might say something foolish. Feeling that he had gone a bit overboard and not achieving the intended effect, Zhang Xiaochuan said, alright, I want to beat around the bush. I believe the brine in the salt well is actually seawater buried underground, and there is a huge reserve. As long as we continue to dig deeper in the existing abandoned mines, we can extract the brine. What do you think, sir? The head of the Chao family was extremely frustrated. Who doesn't know that you need to dig deeper? Do you need to teach me that? You sure know how to talk. Keep digging. Do you know how high the cost is? Plus, who knows when we can actually reach the brine? It's simply a bottomless pit, and if we're not careful, we could go bankrupt. After a pause, he bitterly added, how do you know I haven't dug before? Clearly, the Chao family had attempted deep digging in abandoned wells, but unfortunately, their funding was insufficient to continue. It seemed that the Chao family was now in a precarious situation. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that it seemed he had laid enough groundwork. So it was time to reveal his plan. I have a method to help alleviate your worries, which is called the bamboo tube well. The specifics are all on paper. And this method requires little investment and allows for quicker drilling. You just need to find an experienced craftsman to take a look. As he spoke, he handed over a stack of papers. The head of the Chao family proudly replied, I am the most experienced craftsman in opening salt wells. Then, half in disbelief. He accepted the drawings Zhang Xiaochuan handed over and quickly became engrossed in them. What Zhang Xiaochuan presented was a method of salt well drilling known as the Zhuotong well, which would not appear until several hundred years later during the Song dynasty. The biggest breakthrough was pioneering mechanical drilling, using impact to create holes. This method produced small and deep salt wells, primarily using iron drill bits, and, throughout the process, the most used material was Nan bamboo, with the well's diameter only the size of a bamboo shoot. It should technically be called the bamboo tube well. The term Zhuotong well has two explanations. One is the Sichuan dialect where bamboo sounds similar to Zhua, and the second is that the inventor of this technique was named Zhuotong. But Zhang Xiaochuan felt that calling it a bamboo tube well was more appropriate. Despite the small opening of this well, the ease of water retrieval made its output quite considerable. Thus, this type of well completely surpassed the previous shallow wells. After some time, the head of the Chao family finally finished reading and hurriedly walked out. Zhang Xiaochuan grabbed him, and the head of the Chao family, seeing Zhang Xiaochuan holding him back, said, "Sorry, Erlang, I'm in a rush to experiment with this method, so I won't see you off." The head of the Chao family's words made Zhang Xiaochuan both amused and angry. "Experiment? Have you lost your mind? You just casually take what I brought." Zhang Xiaochuan mocked. Only then did the head of the Chao family realize that this technique was brought by Zhang Xiaochuan. So he said, "Nephew, name your price." "What price? We're all family. Why are we talking about yours and mine? What do you say, uncle?" The head of the Chao family understood what Zhang Xiaochuan wanted and said, "I understand. The matter of divorce will never be mentioned again by the Chao family. I will take my sister-in-law back today. I've already promised you. Why be in such a hurry? It's not that I'm in a hurry. It's just that I prepared the carriage when I came. I can't go back empty-handed. What do you think, uncle?" The head of the Chao family thought to himself that this kid was really difficult, but since he had already agreed, he might as well let it be. So he said, "Someone, please invite Chiner over." Seeing that his goal was achieved, Zhang Xiaochuan no longer wasted words and said, "Thank you, uncle. If you have any questions about the bamboo tube well technology, feel free to ask me. I will certainly share everything I know." Watching Zhang Xiaochuan and Chao Chiner leave, Chao's mother said, "Just let them go like this? How will we explain to our cousin?" The head of the Chao family sighed. After all, Chiner and Jingren are the original couple. Besides, you don't know what that kid from the Zhang family brought me. I have a feeling this could make our Chao family soar. After a pause, he added, the Zhang family might soar even higher. The divorce issue was happily resolved after Zhang Xiaochuan brought out the necessary advanced technology from the future. But he felt a bit heavy-hearted because he proved one thing: class differences. As a fallen noble, he had to break down doors and face the head of the family. Yet in the end, the Chao family didn't even mention it, clearly not because of the technology he provided, but because the nobles bullying merchants was an ancient issue. Thus, the head of the Chao family tacitly accepted that the previous unpleasantness had not occurred. This meant that one day, if he were in a lower position, he could also be at the mercy of others, which he could not accept, and was also the reason he needed to work hard to make money. Some may say that in ancient times, wealth did not equate to power and status, but one could only say that your money was still not enough. After returning to the Marquis's residence, the sister-in-law hoped not to inform the elder brother right now, saying she was afraid it would delay his military duties. Zhang Xiaochuan, after dispatching the old soldiers, began to study the upcoming scientific projects. Having bought so many materials during the last shopping trip, he now needed to find a place to store them in a spacious experimental site. He thought of the old warehouse in the village that looked very suitable when he caught bamboo worms last time. He originally thought that the entire village belonged to the Zhang family, so using an abandoned warehouse would be easy and comfortable. Who knew that when he mentioned it to Uncle Fu, he received a firm response: no. Regardless of whether it was in a past life or a previous incarnation, Zhang Xiaochuan would likely have retreated and given up in such a situation. Perhaps the merging of memories had undergone a mutation. Now, his first reaction was to think about how to resolve the issue. By now, he had also realized that the so-called veteran farmer was not truly a farmer. He didn't know their exact identity, but he felt that the Zhang family was merely residing in this village, while the veterans were the true owners. Mo Lair was the leader of these individuals, but it seemed that the elder brother could still manage Mo Lair. So, after going around in circles, he still had to seek out the elder brother, thus making a mental note. Chapter 20. Plum Blossom Inner Guard. Zhang Xiaochuan was in the courtyard when he heard the sound of hooves approaching rapidly from afar. A smile of cunning satisfaction appeared on his face, as he guessed it was the sound of his elder brother's return. Sure enough, before the person arrived, he heard his elder brother shouting, "Chiner, Chiner." As his elder brother called out, he walked toward his room. Passing by Zhang Xiaochuan, he gave a heavy pat on his shoulder. Although Zhang Xiaochuan could tell from the action and the look in his eyes that it was a sign of affirmation and gratitude, the force was so strong that it made him wince in pain. At that moment, the elder sister-in-law had already come out, and the elder brother quickly embraced her. Then, feeling a bit shy about being outside, he glanced at Zhang Xiaochuan. Understanding the situation, Zhang Xiaochuan tactfully excused himself. "I need to use the restroom." Once the elder brother and sister-in-law entered the room, Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that this little separation felt like a fresh marriage. And it should at least take half a day. Clearly, he had guessed wrong this time. The elder brother came out shortly after, having not engaged in the harmonious activities Zhang Xiaochuan had imagined. Zhang Xiaochuan, surprised, asked, "Why didn't you talk more with sister-in-law?" The elder brother, seemingly not understanding the implication, replied directly, It's enough to have seen her. I want to return to the barracks today. I'll talk with Cheener later. He then asked, how did you persuade the Chow family to let your sister-in-law come back? I just asked Cheener, and she wasn't very clear about it. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, you want to know? I want to tell you. So he pretended to be mysterious and said, that is something I can't say. Why can't you say it? Can't say is just can't say. It's all for your own good. As he thought about how to respond to this remark, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit mischievous. Oh, the elder brother's simple response caused Zhang Xiaochuan to feel a bit unsettled. Aren't you even a little curious? Aren't you going to ask me how I played it cool, or how I made my request? He could see that the elder brother seemed ready to end the conversation. Zhang Xiaochuan truly didn't know if it was because the elder brother was too simple and lacked curiosity, or if it was a tactic to draw him in. In any case, he couldn't let it in like that. So, he quickly added, actually, elder brother, if you want to know, there's nothing I can't say. You must know some about the current situation of the Chow family. I've come up with a method for digging salt wells that saves time, money, and effort. Once the Chow family resolves their salt well crisis, they agreed not to bring up the matter of divorce again. Fearing that the elder brother might end the conversation again, Zhang Xiaochuan hurriedly shared everything without waiting for him to interject. He continued, actually, these methods aren't anything special. I just want you to know that I've grown up now and can help alleviate your burdens. Indeed, Xiaochuan, you have grown a lot. I must thank you for this matter, the elder brother said with great satisfaction. There's one more thing, Zhang Xiaochuan said, testing the waters. We are a family, so feel free to speak your mind. It's about the old soldiers in the village. I need to use the village's houses, and I also need the old soldiers to help me with some tasks. It's inconvenient to keep passing messages around. So can I arrange things directly? When my elder brother heard about the veterans, he seemed troubled. You know this just as he was halfway through. Zhang Xiaochuan jumped in to finish his sentence. This is all for my own good. Big brother, I'm grown up now. I have my own choices. And given our relationship, if the veterans get involved in any danger, do you think the enemy would believe I have nothing to do with these old soldiers? Would they let me off the hook? My elder brother fell silent. Seeing this as an opportunity, Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Moreover, I can tell that you seem to be in a very difficult situation right now. It's uncomfortable to watch. Big brother, tell me. Maybe there's a different way to handle this. You wouldn't want something like what happened to sister-in-law to happen again, would you? Mentioning sister-in-law clearly touched a nerve with my elder brother. It was the last straw. He said seriously, I can tell you, but once I do, there's no turning back. You can't remain uninvolved anymore. Big brother, you really don't need to worry. I was born into the Zhang family. So our fates are intertwined. It's just that you and father didn't see it clearly. My elder brother realized this was indeed the case, as Xiaochuan said. Blood ties are the strongest bond. He then said, actually, the old soldiers in the village didn't retire from the battlefield. They were ordered to stay in the village when they were young. They just never received new orders, and 30 years passed, turning the young into old men. My elder brother paused, seemingly thinking about how to continue. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't rush him, and through his brother's subsequent narrative, he fully understood what was going on and was indeed shocked. It turned out these veterans were part of a special agency established during the reign of a certain empress, known as the Plum Blossom Guards, dedicated to serving the emperor, including intelligence gathering, protection, and assassination. The Zhang family's village was actually a secret stronghold. 30 years ago, this Plum Blossom Guard received orders to withdraw and stand by at the Zhang family, and they never received new missions since then. The reason was guessed to be that the empress had abdicated, and the Plum Blossom Guards had been hunted down, with these veterans being the ones who escaped. Since their cover was that they were a group of old soldiers without families, they were taken in by the Zhang family to live out their years. As for the younger people among them, they were merely young in appearance. The records only showed veterans, and no one would really come to investigate. Thus, they maintained their identities without being discovered. However, after that, the military supplies stopped coming, and the Zhang family continued to support them. These individuals were like ticking time bombs. And the Zhang family didn't dare let them go out to earn money, trying to keep a low profile, which only led to increasing poverty, making them appear as a useless noble in the eyes of others. For years, they didn't let Zhang Xiaochuan know the truth, hoping that one day he could distance himself from this place and avoid being implicated. Zhang Xiaochuan sighed, realizing that knowing this truth was truly nerve-wracking. It was no different from rebellion. However, it was also very exciting. The internal guards during the reign of the Empress were indeed a controlling force of an era, comparable to the elite guards and the secret police. But the second elder of the Mo family seemed to be just a seasoned craftsman. Yet, hiding away like this wasn't a solution. It was like a malignant tumor that could burst at any moment. If worst comes to worst, I could take a big ship and run away with these people overseas, but I currently lack that capability. For now, I can only take it one step at a time. However, being so weak might attract attention. In this day and age, it's strange for nobles not to be arrogant and overbearing. Logically, the Zhang family should be the local overlords in this area. When Zhang Xiaochuan shared this with his elder brother, his brother agreed that it was indeed the case and immediately promised that he would have the final say in the future. Zhang Xiaochuan was very happy to achieve his goal. However, the next thing his brother said wasn't so pleasant. He insisted that even if he didn't go to school, he should at least say goodbye to the teacher to show respect. Zhang Xiaochuan, having integrated the memories of this body, truly found going to school a painful experience and really didn't want to go. But thinking about what his brother said made sense, so he decided to go and finish this matter tomorrow, allowing him to focus on his plans for wealth. Chapter 21. Farewell to Yang Yuhuan. Indeed, going to school was a painful affair. Uncle Fu said that to show respect, they needed to go to school at the usual time today, and after the classes ended, they would say goodbye to the teacher. The private academy Zhang Xiaochuan attended was located in Beima Township, named Beima Academy. So, Zhang Xiaochuan was woken up in the middle of the night, probably around 4 in the morning. He then took a bumpy carriage ride to Beima Academy. Inside the carriage, Zhang Xiaochuan yawned repeatedly and, despite the bumps, dozed off. He didn't know how long it was before he felt the carriage stop, waking up naturally as dawn broke. Zhang Xiaochuan walked ahead, while Yao Yao, disguised as a boy, followed behind carrying books. Although it was called an academy, it was actually a sizable residence that had been converted. The houses hadn't changed much. Only some seats were added for teaching. It was not easy to go to school in ancient times. There were only about 20 or 30 students in such a large township. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan arrived at the classroom door, he raised one foot to step inside but was pushed aside. Get out of the way. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to get angry, he saw a beautiful woman standing behind the person who pushed him. This was the star who had saved him on Qingqing Mountain. He suddenly remembered the name of this star from a drama, and although he knew it was impossible for her to be the same person, he blurted out, Luo Feifei. Rogue. The beautiful woman and Zhang Xiaochuan shouted simultaneously, and it was clear she recognized him too. However, this made Zhang Xiaochuan quite frustrated. He felt wronged because he hadn't seen anything clearly at that moment. He retorted, Who is the rogue? Who is Luo Feifei? They both shouted at the same time again, which angered the young woman further. She pushed Zhang Xiaochuan aside and said, Move aside. Then she walked in with her head held high, followed by the person who had pushed Zhang Xiaochuan and others accompanying her. Zhang Xiaochuan recognized all of them, as they were his former classmates. The reason they are referred to as former classmates is that these individuals, logically, should not be present in this private school. They are all graduates of an esteemed institution and stand out among their peers. Now, they are all attending the county school, with only one person, Zhang Xiaochuan, still studying at the elementary level. One by one, they entered with a sycophantic attitude, casting disdainful glances at Zhang Xiaochuan as they left. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't be bothered to respond to them and followed them inside. He found his seat based on memory and sat down, only to be surrounded by a buzz of chatter. Usually, Zhang Xiaochuan sat in the last row, but today, due to the return of several students, many sat beside and behind him, ignoring him as he quietly listened to the gossip around him. The topics of conversation were centered around 2 main points. First, they were mocking Zhang Xiaochuan for supposedly knowing when to retreat and voluntarily dropping out. Yet here, he was still studying. Second, they mentioned that officials were visiting to encourage learning, and the former classmates, along with a beautiful woman, had come along. This beauty was none other than Yang Yuhuan, although Zhang Xiaochuan did not know her name. Meanwhile, the former classmates were fantasizing about whether they would catch her attention, while Zhang Xiaochuan was feeling disgruntled after being brushed aside twice upon entering and facing the disdain of the group. He was regretting coming to school, feeling it was too embarrassing. Suddenly, the room fell silent, and based on Zhang Xiaochuan's years of experience in education, he recognized that the teacher had arrived. Sure enough, an elderly man walked in. It was Master Su from the esteemed institution. The students stood and greeted him, and after he sat down, they took their seats again. Master Su glanced at Zhang Xiaochuan with mild surprise before beginning the lesson, which involved reading from the textbook and explaining a segment of content along with related anecdotes. However, it must be said that, regardless of the time, a teacher's words are naturally hypnotic for struggling students, and Zhang Xiaochuan, as expected, fell asleep. Fortunately, Yaoer stayed awake and called Zhang Xiaochuan awake just before the class ended. The teacher allowed everyone to take a break and then invited a middle-aged man in, who was Yang Yuhuan's uncle, Yang Xuanjie. Although he was only a 7th-rank official, which seemed unremarkable compared to the so-called high-ranking officials discussed by the students, it was a different story in the provinces. A 7th-rank official might be considered significant in local terms, as a district governor could also hold that rank, making him equivalent to a county-level official in today's terms. Master Su had a long-standing friendship with Yang Yuhuan's father, Yang Xian, and Yang Yuhuan and her uncle had come to the region to pay respects to her deceased father, while also visiting Master Su. Yang Shichao, who served in the capital, was invited to encourage learning. In essence, it was a chance to make connections, ensuring that if these students succeeded in their studies and moved to the capital, they would have support. Furthermore, if these students achieved success, Yang Xuanjie would also gain a mentor-like relationship with them, as such connections were established in ancient times. The following process involved calling students up to introduce themselves, after which Yang Xuanjie would pose questions to test them, offer praise, and finally discuss the principles of governance, thus concluding the session. When asked which student arrived first, a voice emerged. It was heard that a student from a certain academy had been studying there for 9 years, so he must be well versed in the classics. Although the speaker was quite discreet, Zhang Xiaochuan immediately recognized it as Liao Bin, the 8th son of the Liao family. Just wait, I'll show you what it means to take revenge. It's never too late, but I'll get my revenge from morning till night. However, now everyone was looking at Zhang Xiaochuan, and he felt a sense of dread as he realized the situation. Although these were just children's lessons, the key was that he hadn't memorized any of these texts. If he, being the most senior student in this classroom, embarrassed himself, it would be a disaster. things often develop in the direction you least expect. Mr. Su, for some reason, didn't he advise Yang Xuanjie to choose someone else, but instead indicated that this student could be called upon. So, Yang Xuanjie, who was hesitating, followed Mr. Su's suggestion and said, "Then let us have this student answer, shall we?" Seeing that he couldn't escape, Zhang Xiaochuan steeled himself, stood up, bowed, and said, "I am Zhang Xiaochuan, a student from the academy. Please guide me, Mr. Yang." Although he said he was inviting Mr. Yang to teach him. Without waiting for Yang Xuanjie to speak, he continued, "As for the texts we study, I am indeed quite familiar with them. However, with everyone expecting so much from me, wouldn't it be dull if I just recited?" Yang Xuanjie, unaware of Zhang Xiaochuan's history of being at the bottom of the class, found his words quite convincing and asked, "Then what does the young sir suggest for the examination?" "That would be up to Mr. Yang's decision. But I am currently studying the calculations of Suanzi." Zhang Xiaochuan thought about it and realized that mathematics was the only subject he could handle. Although ancient mathematics was a niche field, it was still a formal subject for the imperial examination, so studying it wasn't embarrassing. Yang Xuanjie was quite surprised to hear Zhang Xiaochuan's declaration. It was akin to an elementary school student self-studying high school courses. Regardless of the subject, that was quite impressive. When Zhang Xiaochuan claimed he was studying calculations, his former classmates didn't take it as seriously as he thought. Instead, they assumed he was bragging and began to chatter among themselves. "This Zhang Ershao is really foolish. He claims he is studying calculations." "Exactly. My younger brother is still in the academy and knows that Zhang Ershao hasn't learned anything. If he really could calculate, I'd crawl out of the academy. He doesn't even know that Liao's brother is the real expert in calculations." Hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan thought, "So this is how you want to play? I'll take on anyone I can." He turned to the one who had just been so boastful and said, "Brother Liao, do you dare to compete with me in calculations?" "Compete in calculations? You think you're worthy? I majored in calculations at the county school, and I can recite the multiplication tables backwards." Liao Bin said proudly. "Multiplication tables? Oh, you mean the times tables," Zhang Xiaochuan realized, feeling a surge of confidence. With such a level of skill, he could easily outshine him as a college student. It seemed he needed to provoke him a bit more, so he pressed on. "So, are you willing or not?" At this point, Liao Bin didn't even need provoking. He simply thought Zhang Xiaochuan was bragging and didn't have a shred of doubt that he could actually calculate. He replied, "Of course. Haha. What do I have to be afraid of? It just needs to be a little more exciting than natural." Well, I don't know what Brother Liao wants as a wager. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that if he didn't take advantage of this opportunity, it would be unfair to Brother Liao who recommended him. Liao Bin, with a face full of disdain, stated his demand. "If you lose, I want you to kneel in front of Miss Yang and shout 3 times that I, Zhang Xiaochuan, am a rogue and a scoundrel, bringing shame to culture." Zhang Xiaochuan thought, "So you want to embarrass that young lady, but I really didn't see anything at that time. However, that is not important. If you dare to play this way, I'll make sure you regret it." Unexpectedly, the beautiful young lady was quite righteous and said, "This is your competition. Don't bring up any stakes related to me." Seeing that the beauty didn't appreciate his words, Liao Bin had to change his demand. "Then let it be that if you lose, you have to shout that I, Zhang Xiaochuan, am a foolish and poor loser, and you must leave the private school forever, never to say you were a student of the White Horse Academy. I would be ashamed to be your classmate." At this point, Zhang Xiaochuan understood that this was to force him to drop out. This wasn't just about humiliation from former classmates. There was also the shadow of Master Su behind it. Otherwise, if it had gone this far, someone would have stopped it. "However, I can leave. But not in this way. I must win and leave with dignity." So he replied, "I accept, but my condition is that you let me slap you once. And you must never say you were my classmate." Liao Bin, seeing that he wanted to slap him, thought about how he would die later, and replied, "All right." After Zhang Xiaochuan and Liao Bin established their wager, it was clear that Master Su and Yang Xuanjie had also reached a tacit understanding. Yang Xuanjie, unfazed by the previous conversation, said, "Since you two are competing in mathematics, I will present 3 problems for you to solve. The one with the most correct answers wins. If both answer correctly, the faster one wins. Do either of you have any objections?" The two replied, "We abide by your judgment." "Then please listen to the first question. A farmer has 83 pounds of peaches, and the price is 6 coins per pound. If the farmer sells all the peaches, how much money will he earn?" After Yang Xuanjie finished asking the question, Liao Bin was still doodling on the board, while Zhang Xiaochuan immediately shouted the answer, 498 coins. Liao Bin wasn't too slow either, taking almost a minute to calculate. Yang Xuanjie announced the result of the first round. Zhang Xiaochuan's answer is correct. He wins. At this moment, murmurs arose from the audience. "He must have guessed right. Look, he didn't even draw a grid." "Exactly. He can't possibly calculate faster than Brother Liao. Everyone knows Brother Liao is the fastest at calculations in the academy. Don't worry, he can't keep guessing right. Just wait and see how I'll take him down in the next question," Liao Bin shamelessly responded. Zhang Xiaochuan sneered inwardly, thinking that for this basic multiplication, he could calculate it directly in his head, while Liao Bin was making things overly complicated with his grids and slashes. At this point, Yang Xuanjie continued with the next question. "There are 37 soldiers in a garrison, and each consumes 436 coins worth of food per month. How much does this garrison consume in food each month?" 132 coins. As soon as Yang Xuanjie finished speaking, Zhang Xiaochuan reported his answer. Meanwhile, Liao Bin was still busy doodling. This time he was slower, taking about 15 minutes to finish, and naturally, his answer matched Zhang Xiaochuan's. Unsurprisingly, Zhang Xiaochuan won again. If the competition were best of 3, Zhang Xiaochuan would have already won. However, it was clear that things did not go as Zhang Xiaochuan expected. Yang Xuanjie said, "The first 2 questions are relatively simple, and both answered them correctly. But the last question is quite difficult. If one can answer it correctly, then the victory will be well-deserved." Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself, if you can't win in a fair match, then you resort to trickery. It was agreed that the one with more correct answers wins, but now it's down to one question to determine the outcome. This is utterly shameless. However, with your elementary level math, bring it on. Meanwhile, those former classmates were also shamelessly looking for excuses. Yang Shiqiao made a valid point. The first 2 questions were too easy. Anyone could solve them. Moreover, I suspect that Zhang Ershao mostly got lucky with those answers. However, he definitely won't be able to get lucky with the 3rd question. Brother Liao must seize the opportunity to win in the 3rd question, so that this lucky guy can see what a true math expert looks like. Just wait and see how I will defeat this fellow in the 3rd question, and let him know that all luck is futile in the face of absolute strength. Zhang Xiaochuan was too lazy to watch this group of clowns perform, so he spoke loudly. Please, Yang Shiqiao, present the question. Alright, since everyone is eager, I will present the 3rd question. There are several chickens and rabbits in a cage. Counting from above, there are 35 heads, and counting from below, there are 94 feet. How many chickens and rabbits are there in the cage? Indeed, is the pinnacle of ancient mathematics just about chickens and rabbits in a cage? The numbers in the question haven't even changed. How is this difficult? This is practically a freebie. So I blurted out, the answer is 12 rabbits and 23 chickens. At that moment, Liao Bin was still deep in thought. Upon hearing Zhang Xiaochuan's immediate answer, his first reaction was disbelief. It was either a lucky guess or he already knew the answer in advance. A lucky guess couldn't possibly be all correct. So he immediately stopped thinking and sought verification. Please, Yang Shiqiao, inform us whether Zhang Erlang's answer is correct. Correct, Yang Xuanjie replied with slight regret. While Su Fuzi's expression also darkened. Little did he know, Liao Bin, feeling heated, thought that since it was correct, it meant he must have known the answer beforehand. In a moment of impulse, he blurted out, Zhang Xiaochuan, you struggle to recognize characters. How could you possibly calculate such advanced arithmetic? You must have known the answer in advance and colluded with someone. Although he did not name anyone, it was clear he was implying that Zhang Xiaochuan had colluded with Yang Xuanjie. As expected, once Liao Bin's words left his mouth, Yang Xuanjie's face darkened immediately. This was an insult to him. Su Fuzi scolded, Liao Bin, do not be unreasonable. It is you who lack skill. Su Fuzi was well aware that this matter was an impromptu decision, and the questions were devised by him for Yang Xuanjie only after Zhang Xiaochuan proposed the math competition. Therefore, Liao Bin's words were nothing but mindless barking. Liao Bin, completely oblivious to this, ignored Su Fuzi's advice and said, Teacher, you know that Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't possibly calculate this, let alone him. Even you couldn't solve it this quickly. So there can only be one possibility. He knew the answer in advance. Su Fuzi just wanted Liao Bin to shut up quickly, as the more he elaborated, the worse it would get, not only embarrassing himself, but also offending others. Mr. Su said angrily, Liao Bin, you lost the calculation competition, and as your teacher, I order you to stop causing trouble. This truly frightened Liao Bin. If he continued to act out, it would be seen as disrespecting his teacher, which is highly valued in scholarly circles. Mr. Su stopped Liao Bin and soothingly said, I will explain everything to you later. Chapter 023, Developing New Dishes Under Mr. Su's strong pressure, Liao Bin reluctantly agreed and stammered as he approached Zhang Xiaochuan. I. Slap. Zhang Xiaochuan swung his hand, which he had been preparing for a while, and then grimaced. Ouch, I used too much strength, my hand is a bit numb. Liao Bin stumbled and fell against someone else, and after getting up, he covered his mouth and said, You. Shut up. Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted him directly, not giving him a chance to speak. Then he clasped his hands in a salute to Mr. Su, stated his purpose for coming today, and left gracefully with Yaoer. Watching Zhang Xiaochuan walk out confidently, everyone had different thoughts. Mr. Su felt a mix of emotions. Although he had achieved his initial goal of having Zhang Xiaochuan leave the private school, the manner of departure was far from what he had imagined. Had he known this kid was coming to withdraw, he wouldn't have acted like a petty person. Liao Bin and his classmates were still unwilling to accept this fact, believing Zhang Xiaochuan was plotting something and swearing to get even one day. However, Liao Bin was the worst off. He neither showcased his success in front of the girl he liked nor helped his teacher, and in the end, he completely offended Yang Xuanjie. Yang Xuanjie was puzzled. He believed such a talented person would definitely achieve great things in the future and couldn't understand why Mr. Su wanted to drive Zhang Xiaochuan away. He thought he should find a way to win him over when the opportunity arose. Yang Yuhuan looked at the victorious Zhang Xiaochuan and felt quite stirred inside. The derogatory remarks made by Liao Bin and the others about Zhang Xiaochuan now seemed to her like jealousy. At this age, being able to master such calculations could definitely be considered genius. How could he not memorize the classics? Or perhaps Zhang Xiaochuan had been hiding his abilities, but if so, why? Once someone has a halo, all flaws are often rationalized. Furthermore, when a woman becomes curious about a man, it signals the onset of romantic feelings. After leaving the private school, Zhang Xiaochuan felt completely liberated, possessing knowledge that surpassed the entire era. Challenging the extremely difficult imperial examinations seemed like asking for trouble. He preferred making money and living a relaxed life. Remembering that he hadn't seen Huang Pengzi for a long time, he decided to visit and see how business was doing since the private school wasn't far from the restaurant. When Zhang Xiaochuan arrived at the restaurant, he found a line outside, making it quite difficult to get a table, since he had visited several times during the construction and opening phases. The staff recognized him and led him to the kitchen. Huang Pengzi, the owner and chef, was sweating profusely from the hard work. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan, he was as excited as a 3-year-old child, bouncing over to him. "Master, I'm enjoying cooking more and more. The feeling of stir-frying is like practicing martial arts. Every scoop and flip gets my body moving, and it feels incredibly satisfying." Only Huang Pengzi could be this happy despite being so worn out every day. "Remember when we first met? You were still a plump and sharp-minded manager, and now you're just a full-fledged cook," Zhang Xiaochuan sighed, feeling as if he had ruined the bright future of a promising manager. "Master, you have no idea, I was originally a cook. If it weren't for circumstances, who would want to be a manager? My culinary skills hit a bottleneck, and I could never make better dishes. Ever since I met you, my cooking has improved tremendously, and I come up with new ideas every day." Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan, the chubby man couldn't stop talking, clearly excited about his recent gains. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaochuan to respond, he continued, "Master, you're just in time. I've recently developed a few new dishes for you to try." Zhang Xiaochuan gladly accepted and followed the servant to a private room. Before long, several dishes were served. At first glance, he thought, wow, isn't this shredded pork in Beijing sauce, sweet and sour pork, and home-style tofu? But upon closer inspection, there were indeed some differences. The shredded pork in Beijing sauce lacked the scallion pancakes, the sweet and sour pork was missing the sauce, and the home-style tofu didn't have wood ear mushrooms or green peppers. The more Zhang Xiaochuan looked, the more he felt something was off. It was enough to trigger his obsessive-compulsive tendencies. The chubby man felt like a son-in-law being scrutinized by his mother-in-law, and he noticed Zhang Xiaochuan frowning, which made his heart skip a beat. As Zhang Xiaochuan pondered over the dishes, he looked up to see the chubby man's flushed face and couldn't help but smile. "Relax. Relax. I'm just thinking that your dishes could use a little improvement. Let us head to the kitchen." Saying this, he got up, and the chubby man hurriedly followed, looking at him with admiration. "Indeed, master, your culinary skills are almost magical. My dishes have been praised by everyone at the restaurant. But you only needed one glance to know how to improve them." In the kitchen, they started with the shredded pork in Beijing sauce. In later times, it is usually wrapped in bean curd skin, but since that wasn't available in this era, Zhang Xiaochuan had to use thin pancakes instead. He took some flour, kneaded it into dough, and then formed small dough balls, rolling them out into round wrappers, similar to making dumpling skins. Next, he soaked the wrappers in oil and layered them, rolling them out again to push the oil out. After that, he had the chubby man steam them and cut some scallions. Then Zhang Xiaochuan prepared the sweet and sour sauce for the sweet and sour pork. Finally, for the home-style tofu, he added the wood ear mushrooms, and since there were no chili peppers, he added some chopped scallions. After finishing, the 3 dishes were brought back to the private room. Looking at the shredded pork in Beijing sauce, sweet and sour pork, and home-style tofu, which closely resembled those from later times, Zhang Xiaochuan felt satisfied. The chubby man took a piece of the thin pancake, added some scallions and shredded meat, rolled it up, and took a bite. As the flavors spread in his mouth, his eyes lit up. He had previously found the shredded pork too salty and greasy, but now, paired with the thin pancake and scallions, those shortcomings were perfectly balanced. He quickly tasted the other 2 dishes, and the added flavors and ingredients beautifully complemented the original shortcomings, elevating the entire dish. Zhang Xiaochuan's status in the chubby man's heart was also elevated. "Master, these dishes after your improvements are simply delicious and perfect." Zhang Xiaochuan did not realize that it was just his obsessive-compulsive tendencies compelling him to recreate these dishes. However, he was greatly admired by Huang Pengzi, who thought his master's culinary skills were profound and mysterious. For Zhang Xiaochuan, since it wasn't a perfect replication and, most importantly, lacked chili peppers, there was always something missing. With a hint of regret, he remarked, "This is quite ordinary. After all, it still lacks a bit of flavor." Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's disappointed expression, which didn't seem feigned, Huang Pengzi's admiration grew even more. He thought, if someone could be unsatisfied even at this level, how impressive must the master be? Thinking about the chili peppers, Zhang Xiaochuan decided that since he couldn't wait for them to be imported, he would go find them himself. He couldn't possibly wait for them to arrive from abroad. That would take forever. He then asked Huang Pengzi, "Do you have any connections to find some foreign merchants or traders who operate beyond the borders of the Tang dynasty?" Still immersed in the excitement of the new dishes, Huang Pengzi quickly replied, "No problem. I just don't know when you want to meet them." "That's not urgent. Just find as many as you can," Zhang Xiaochuan said. Afterward, he recalled something and asked, "I was worried that over time people might lose interest in stir-fried dishes and business would decline. But it seems the situation is even better than before." Huang Pengzi explained, "Actually, I had similar concerns, but the level of popularity has far exceeded my expectations. It's because people had never eaten stir-fried dishes before, which created a sense of novelty. If I've had it, and you haven't tea, I do want to show it off." Plus, with the lack of entertainment in ancient times, this news spread widely. Now, dining at Filelu has become a symbol of status, making the business even more thriving. Although they now had fame backing them, Delicious food was the key to longevity. I've prepared some seasoning recipes for you. All written down, he said, taking out a piece of paper and handing it to Huang Pengzi. Huang Pengzi looked at it in confusion and said, Master, these seem to be all medicinal ingredients. Will they taste good in the dishes? You don't need to worry about that. Just follow my recipe to try it out. Once you're familiar with it, you can adjust the proportions and methods as you see fit, Zhang Xiaochuan replied before returning to the village. After all, he had worked hard to secure resources from his brother, and he needed to quickly go back to develop his own plans for wealth. Although the restaurant was profitable, it was nothing compared to what he aimed to achieve. Chapter 024. Rupert's Tears. Uncle Emo, what position do you hold in the Mayflower Inner Guard? Zhang Xiaochuan asked curiously. Oh dear, Erlang, you're asking for trouble. Such things cannot be spoken of. Uncle Emo was startled by Zhang Xiaochuan and then proudly whispered. I'm a little pavilion leader. This Mayflower Inner Guard organization has a hierarchy consisting of the Great Pavilion Leader, and Hall Master. Zhang Xiaochuan compared it to the well-known ranks of the Jinyue, estimating that it was roughly equivalent to the Commander and Deputy Commander and 1,000 Household Leader. Aren't you their head? Why are you still just a Pavilion Leader? Actually, this Pavilion Leader has considerable power. At critical times, they can even decide the life and death of local officials, but times have changed. Now, they're just like a rat crossing the street, Uncle Emo replied. What do you know? Old Emo glared at Zhang Xiaochuan and said, can we stop discussing this? My heart can't take it. All right, I'll ask one last question. Seeing that Old Emo was genuinely anxious, Zhang Xiaochuan had no choice but to compromise. Who really manages whom between you and the elder brother? In fact, none of us were originally in charge of the other. In the past, your family only provided cover for us. However, since it is now completely your family that supports us, we are certainly following your lead. Old Emo said, you're being too kind. We should say we are all in the same boat now. My thoughts, I'm sure the elder brother has shared them with you. In short, I just hope everyone can live a little more comfortably and openly. One day, we must break free from this life of hiding and running. Old Emo expressed his gratitude, saying, Erlang, on behalf of the over 500 people on the estate, thank you. This is the most basic thing you deserve. You have sacrificed too much. And honestly, I think it's not worth it. Upon saying this, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed Old Emo seemed a bit resistant and suddenly understood that what was worthless to him, imperial edicts, were once their beliefs and glory. So he changed the subject, saying, let us talk about what we need to do next. Since he had already reached an understanding with Old Emo, the next steps would be easier. Zhang Xiaochuan first asked Old Emo to take him to the old warehouse. The warehouse door was unlocked, and as Zhang Xiaochuan stepped in, he felt like crying. Apart from a few broken wooden frames, there was nothing inside. Fortunately, the place was large enough. So he asked Old Emo to arrange for people to move in all the items he had purchased a few days ago. Another comforting thing for Zhang Xiaochuan was that there was a workshop right next to the warehouse, which Old Mo and his people usually used for blacksmithing. Zhang Xiaochuan took out some blueprints, which were for the facilities and tools he would be experimenting with next. He asked Old Emo to modify another room in the warehouse according to the blueprints. Old Emo held the blueprints Zhang Xiaochuan gave him, which depicted some peculiar items. This made him very excited as he was genuinely interested in these things. Then Zhang Xiaochuan asked Old Emo to arrange for people to collect various stones. I must say, Old Emo was truly skilled and efficient. In just a few days, most of it was ready, although some tools were still not finished. However, this did not affect Zhang Xiaochuan's current experiments. In the following days, Zhang Xiaochuan basically lived like a recluse, either at home pulling Yaoer to draw and write or running to the old warehouse to tinker with things. Yaoer watched him hammering and tinkering in the warehouse, finding it quite boring, and just stood outside in a daze. At that moment, she heard Zhang Xiaochuan excitedly shout from inside, I did it! I did it! Yaoer, come quick and see. Before she could respond, Zhang Xiaochuan had already rushed to her side, holding out something that resembled a droplet of water. Yaoer took it in her hand. It was still warm and felt smooth and comfortable to touch. She vaguely remembered that this thing resembled glass. This was exactly what Zhang Xiaochuan had been working on during this time, glass. After grinding quartz and limestone, and then adding ash water in a certain proportion and heating it, transparent glass has now been successfully produced from sand and stone. Although there is already glass in this era, the craftsmanship is outdated, resulting in low purity, lack of transparency, poor heat resistance, and extreme fragility. The research conducted by Zhang Xiaochuan is much closer to the glass of later generations, suitable for making various utensils, which is a true means of wealth accumulation. At this moment, Uncle Emo also came out. Erlang, you are truly amazing. I've seen glass before, but none as transparent as yours. That's not all, Uncle Emo said. Let me show you something even more impressive. He led the two to the iron forging platform, where Zhang Xiaochuan placed the glass on the table and said, Uncle Emo, you try hitting it with a hammer. Although he guessed Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to prove that the glass wouldn't shatter, Uncle Emo was still a bit skeptical. He picked up the hammer and lightly struck it, but the glass remained intact. Hey, now I'm intrigued, Uncle Emo said, and on the second strike, he used half his strength, yet it was still unharmed. With full force, it remained undamaged. Even after a powerful strike, it was still perfectly fine. This astonished Uncle Emo, as he was always cautious with glass, fearing it would break easily. He began to wonder if the tales of fragility were just rumors, and asked, is it a rumor that glass is fragile? It shouldn't be, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. recalling that ancient glass was indeed known for its fragility, which is why it was mainly used for ornamental crafts. Then why is yours so hard? Harder than steel. Because this is called Rupert's drop. What drop? What tier? Uncle Mo was confused. That's not important. What matters is that it's not as hard as it seems. You just need to know the right method. Saying this, he picked up a pair of tongs and pinched the tail of the glass drop, which instantly turned to powder. This was a scientific fact even modern students know, but in ancient times, it was truly a miraculous operation. Seeing the astonished expressions of the two, Zhang Xiaochuan felt a great sense of satisfaction. He instructed Uncle Mo to find a place on the farm to expand the glassmaking workshop and encourage the strong laborers to join the glass production workforce. While building the workshop, they would also research various daily glass products, with tableware being the first to go into mass production. In ancient times, using a set of glass tableware was even more luxurious than using a set of gold tableware, symbolizing wealth and status. However, since the 300 coins given by a certain individual had almost been spent, coupled with recent warehouse renovations, Zhang Xiaochuan found himself broke. Therefore, the pressing issue was a lack of funds. Although there were free laborers for building the kiln, material costs were still significant. Chapter 025, Restaurant Profit Sharing Calculating the Time. It had been almost a month since he invested in the Fulai building. Zhang Xiaochuan knew he had spent considerably during the initial development. So they agreed on a monthly profit-sharing arrangement. He wondered when the profits would be sent and planned to have Uncle Fu follow up on it. When they returned to the courtyard, Zhang Xiaochuan saw several carts parked at the entrance, with the leading figure being the chubby man. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan, he immediately stepped forward with a beaming smile to greet him. Master, I've brought you the monthly profit share. Not bad. You really have relieved my urgent need. Zhang Xiaochuan replied. This is what you deserve as my disciple. Last month, we only introduced new dishes in the latter half. So the total earnings were just 3,521 coins, which is still 5 to 6 times more than before. After deducting the costs, we made a profit of 2,000 coins, and here's 1,000 coins specifically for you. 1,000 coins is quite a lot. With this money, I can fully complete the glass workshop and still have extra for initial product investments, Zhang Xiaochuan thought, feeling very pleased. I'll accept this, but with your shop so busy, you could have just sent someone over. There was no need for you to come in person, Zhang Xiaochuan said. The chubby man replied somewhat shyly. Sending money is a small matter. Mainly, I wanted to see you, master. Hearing this made Zhang Xiaochuan feel uncomfortable. I'm a straight man. Don't think about bending me, he thought. As long as the money is here, you can head back. He wished the chubby man would leave quickly. The moment he said he missed him made Zhang Xiaochuan uneasy. However, his attempts to send him away were ineffective, and the chubby man became even shyer. Master. Actually, I have some culinary questions to ask. Zhang Xiaochuan internally sighed, thinking, really? You just want to ask some cooking questions. Just ask. There's no need to be so dramatic about it. He said impatiently, just ask. No need to be so secretive as if it's a big deal. Thank you, master. It's like this. In the seasoning list you gave me last time, there's a spice called chili. I know about the Sichuan pepper and black pepper. But I've been pondering on what this chili is for a long time without any results, so I took the liberty to ask you. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan slapped his forehead, realizing he had forgotten that chili hadn't yet reached their time. It seemed this needed to be expedited. This chili is a seasoning that came from overseas, but it hasn't spread widely and is still absent. The merchants I asked you to look for were to search for seeds of this kind of spice, hoping to cultivate it in large quantities so that future generations can also taste this amazing flavor. The chubby man suddenly understood. It was indeed a spice he had never encountered. No wonder it's something lost to time. I have already contacted a few merchants for you, master. However, if you want these people to help find things, the more, the better. Why not go to Ezhou and ask the local official there to help connect with merchants? That would surely be more efficient. Moreover, Ezhou is a major hub in the southwest, a center for goods, with countless merchants coming and going. The chubby man's words sparked an idea in Zhang Xiaochuan. What is a market office? It's akin to the modern-day market supervision and management unit. Gathering some merchants for a meeting wouldn't be a difficult task at all. You've reminded me well. Let us do as you suggest. However, we shouldn't neglect Suzhou either. Having more merchants will bring more opportunities. Huang Pengzi seemed to have thought of something and said with realization, Master, your quest for items is not an easy task. I wonder what kind of price you are willing to offer. His words reminded Zhang Xiaochuan. But there wasn't much to think about. It was simply a matter of offering money. However, how much to offer still required Huang Pengzi's input, as he was a local businessman. So he replied, I'm planning to offer money, but I haven't decided how much yet. What do you think? The disciple thought that these items must be quite important to the master, and if he wanted to find them quickly, the value naturally couldn't be low. After a pause for thought, Huang Pengzi continued, I believe 1,000 guan each would be about right. 1,000 guan seemed reasonable to Huang Pengzi, but he soon realized something was off. Master, did you say 1,000 guan each? I wonder how many items you are looking for. There isn't a specific number. As long as it's a plant that our country doesn't have, it's fine. What kind of plants are we talking about? Huang Pengzi asked, looking confused. Zhang Xiaochuan pondered how to explain and replied, basically, flowers, grass, trees, crops, fruits, and vegetables. Master, our country is rich in resources, and it might be a waste of effort to seek foreign items, Huang Pengzi said with a hint of disdain. People from the Tang dynasty were quite proud, wanting to attract visitors from all nations. It was hard to comprehend why one would offer a reward to search for foreign species when the Tang had so much already. However, Zhang Xiaochuan didn't care how Huang Pengzi thought about collecting foreign plants. He wanted to gather them to satisfy his own cravings. Common items in later generations, like chili peppers, sweet potatoes, and corn, were all absent in the Tang dynasty. People are like that, even if these things are ordinary in later times. Once they are missing, they seem precious and desirable, and the longing grows stronger over time. The Tang people did not understand the immense value of these items, but Zhang Xiaochuan was well aware of it. Moreover, due to constant wars in ancient times, the lack of resources was primarily due to insufficient food. People invested most of their labor into basic subsistence, leaving little time or energy to develop other areas. Thus, the first step towards social progress was ensuring sufficient food. Without high-yield crops like sweet potatoes, corn, and potatoes, it would be difficult to fill one's stomach. Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't a morally lofty nationalist, but he still held a strong sense of national sentiment. If he could meet his needs while benefiting his fellow countrymen, why not? He didn't explain much to Huang Pengzi. Some unknown things are hard for others to believe, no matter how well you explain them. You don't need to worry about that. I have a clear idea of the items I need to collect. Since the master had made a decision, the disciple didn't want to persuade him further. However, he wondered if 1,000 guan each might be too high. While foreign lands may be barren, there are indeed many foreign plants, Huang Pengzi said awkwardly after a pause. Master, you might find it difficult to offer such a substantial amount of money. I would like to help, but my financial resources are limited. Don't worry about the money. But you're right, 1,000 guan each is a bit high. I'll think it over again. Please help me contact the local authorities. And give me a few days to prepare before I visit the local officials in Shu Prefecture. The chubby man saw that Zhang Xiaochuan was confident and no longer tangled with the matter of searching for items. He asked some cooking questions that were puzzling to him, but were mostly basic knowledge for future generations. Zhang Xiaochuan answered without reservation. So the chubby man returned home fully satisfied. As soon as the funds were secured, he immediately went to find Uncle Mo to discuss the construction of the kiln. With money, things could be done quickly, and soon the kiln construction was underway. Zhang Xiaochuan also began researching the production of glassware and would occasionally check on the progress of the glass kiln. Watching the busy workers constructing the kiln, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but feel emotional. These were the legendary Plum Blossom Inner Guards, elite craftsmen from the palace, now working as masons. It was quite a luxury. He wondered if Wu Zetian would be upset to see her hard-established guards doing this, imagining a wicked smile creeping onto her lips. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan's strange expressions of frowning and smiling, Uncle Mo thought he was dissatisfied with their work and explained, Erlang, how do you find their work? Although they usually practice martial arts, they've done a lot of work over the years, and they perform these tasks quite well, not worse than regular craftsmen. Hearing Uncle Mo's words, Zhang Xiaochuan was momentarily taken aback, and after a moment of thought, he realized he was mistaken for being dissatisfied with the workers. So he reassured him, they're doing great. I was just thinking about some other matters. By the way, why are there no women among your Plum Blossom Inner Guards? Oh dear, Erlang, don't mention that. The old man's heart isn't too good. Upon hearing Zhang Xiaochuan bring up the Plum Blossom Inner Guards, Uncle Mo felt a lump in his throat, as if there were listening devices around. He then responded, isn't it normal not to have women? After all, we used to be a military unit. It was indeed a habitual thought influenced by films and TV shows, assuming that intelligence agencies would have women. Overlooking the fact that it was still a military group, having no women was quite normal. Zhang Xiaochuan then thought of another question. You must have all been quite young when you went into hiding back then, right? Yes, the oldest was in his 30s. And the youngest was only 13, Uncle Mo recalled. This led Zhang Xiaochuan to ask a rather cliched question. You didn't all remain unmarried and childless, did you? Well, we didn't want to cause any trouble for anyone, Uncle Mo replied with a hint of disappointment. Actually, Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to ask if they were still virgins. But Uncle Mo's response confirmed it, implying they were all old bachelors. My goodness, this was undoubtedly the saddest thing he had ever heard. Zhang Xiaochuan patted Uncle Mo on the shoulder with an understanding look and said, this truly is a sad story. What story? Uncle Mo asked. Nothing, Uncle Mo, don't worry. As long as I, Zhang Xiaochuan, am here, and as long as you all can hold on, I will definitely help you all find wives. In a certain courtyard in Shuzhou City, the main hall, a chubby young man and a middle-aged man were talking inside a hall. The young man, known as Huang Pengzi, waved his hand, and a servant brought a box and placed it on the low table in front of the middle-aged man. Huang Pengzi said recently, I stumbled upon a good item and specially brought it to honor you, uncle. The middle-aged man, Li Liangong, who was the deputy magistrate of Shuzhou, glanced at it casually, thinking that the so-called good item was merely a formality. Therefore, he didn't open the box but set it aside instead, saying, Sure Bin is thoughtful. A few days ago, I visited your father in Ezhou, and he asked me to take care of you. Now that you've come to see me, is there something troubling you? Huang Pengzi felt disdainful upon hearing Li Liangong's words, thinking to himself, what care? It must be that old man asking you to persuade me to go back to school. However, he still obediently replied, Thank you for your concern, Uncle Li. I do indeed have a matter to discuss today, but it's just a favor for a friend. Li Liangong was merely being polite, and didn't expect Huang Pengzi to actually have something to discuss. However, after some thought, he understood that such courtesy often came with a request. He then asked, What is it that you wish to discuss, dear nephew? Huang Pengzi didn't answer Li Liangong directly, but circled back to the gift. Uncle Li, before I speak, could you please open the gift and take a look? Seeing that the young man was being mysterious, Li Liangong wasn't angry but chuckled, saying, then I must see what treasure my dear nephew has brought me. As he spoke, he picked up the wooden box and gently opened it. Just as the box was halfway open, Li Liangong hurriedly closed it again, wondering if he was seeing things. After steadying his mind, he slowly opened it again. When he fully opened the box, a set of transparent, flawless, and exquisite wine utensils appeared before them. Could this be made of glazed material? Yes, but not exactly. Huang Pengzi answered pretentiously, but seeing Li Liangong's threatening gaze, it was as if he was saying, you better speak clearly. Huang Pengzi shrank his head and hurriedly added, the person who made this said that although it is made of glazed material, the method of production is entirely different, so it is called glass. Glazed material is already incredibly precious, so this glass is a priceless treasure. Huang Pengzi smoothly continued. Li Liangong didn't speak, but was engaged in self-reflection, staring blankly for a while before slowly picking up a wine cup and examining it closely, confirming that he was not seeing things. At that moment, Li Liangong looked like someone who had never seen such things before, playing with the utensils in the box, picking one up, looking at it, setting it down, then quickly picking up another. His actions and expressions were quite comical, like a novice seeing a beautiful woman without clothes, both enamored and shy. Huang Pengzi watched this, feeling quite pleased, recalling how Li Liangong had reacted similarly when he saw these wine utensils yesterday at Zhang Xiaochuan's place. Compared to the calm demeanor of Zhang Xiaochuan, Fubo, and Yaoer, it was truly embarrassing. However, now there was finally someone who reacted like him, making him feel as if he hadn't been the one embarrassed yesterday, and he found himself secretly looking down on Li Liangong for his naivety. In fact, these wine utensils were made of transparent glass, similar to the decanters and small glass cups used in restaurants for drinking spirits in later times. With Zhang Xiaochuan completely copying the design, Li Liangong and Huang Pengzi were quite surprised to see the glassware, mainly because they were somewhat knowledgeable and had seen fine glass before. This made the contrast with the glassware even more striking. If it were someone who had never seen fine glass, they might find it beautiful but wouldn't react so strongly. They recalled their past when they came to the capital for studies and had the fortune to meet Mr. Xiao once. After many years, seeing such exquisite glass again was unexpected. As Li Liangong reminisced and admired the piece for a while, he hesitated but ultimately felt reluctant to return the glassware to Huang Pengzi. Dear nephew, this gift is too precious. As for the matter your friend entrusted to me, it's better not to mention it, as I fear I am powerless to help. Seeing that Li Liangong was about to decline, Huang Pengzi quickly explained, Uncle, don't be anxious. This task isn't too difficult. Just hear me out before making a decision. He then poured out the details about Zhang Xiaochuan wanting to ask a merchant to help find foreign plants, like pouring beans from a bamboo tube. Li Liangong was a bit surprised and asked, is it really that simple? Although having others gather merchants under one's name is somewhat against the rules, it pales in comparison to the tremendous benefits involved. It's really that simple, Huang Pengzi replied seriously. Li Liangong still felt confused. For such a simple matter, giving such a valuable gift is truly undeserved. Moreover, given my relationship with your father, you could have simply asked, and I would have helped without needing to go through all this. In fact, this piece was made by my master, and according to him, it's not very precious to him, so you don't need to take it to heart, Huang Pengzi explained. Li Liangong, slightly puzzled, asked, your master? Huang Pengzi understood that Li Liangong was asking what kind of master it was, so he honestly replied, it's the master who taught me culinary skills. Upon hearing it was a culinary master, combined with the fact that making glass is still a trade, Li Liangong felt a hint of disdain, his tone slightly cold. Nephew, clever tricks are ultimately not the right path. Studying and taking exams should be your focus. However, since he had already received this benefit, he agreed to help with the entrusted matter. I will take on the request on behalf of your friend. Thank you, uncle. Huang Pengzi clasped his hands in gratitude, pleased that he had achieved his goal. Once Huang Pengzi took his leave, Li Liangong eagerly called for someone to bring wine. He wanted to try out the new glassware. Chapter 027 Glass Release Conference, Part 1. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. According to the agreement between Huang Pengzi and Li Liangong, a gathering was arranged today at Fulai Building with various merchants. The city's deputy magistrate was involved in organizing the event, attracting a large crowd. Most of the reputable merchants from Shu Prefecture and large merchants passing through were present. Although many people attended, most were either constrained by the deputy magistrate's authority or came due to the location of Fulai Building. They weren't entirely clear on the specifics of the gathering, but most were quite excited. Upon arrival, they discovered it wasn't just a dull meeting. The recently popular Fulai Building would also provide a lavish dinner, which alone was enough to thrill everyone. It is said that there will be a press conference featuring a rare type of glass, which has raised expectations to the max. 200 seats have been prepared in the courtyard of the Fulai Building, and they are now filled. Most of the merchants know each other and are chatting when suddenly someone shouts, the city official has arrived. The crowd instantly quiets down, and a group of people walks towards the archway leading to the square, led by the city official Li Liangong, followed closely by Zhang Xiaochuan and a portly man. Li Liangong knows he is merely here to support Zhang Xiaochuan today, so after a brief exchange of pleasantries, he introduces Zhang Xiaochuan. Although the crowd initially feels dissatisfied that Li Liangong is not the main focus today, Their mood shifts upon hearing that the second son of the male family from Qingqing County is present. However, the local merchants' expectations plummet, as the Zhang family's reputation in Suzhou is notorious for being impoverished, making them arguably the poorest noble family in history. Given this background, they wonder what valuable items could possibly be presented. Nevertheless, out of respect for Li Liangong and Zhang Xiaochuan's noble status, they refrain from causing a scene. Zhang Xiaochuan, despite having merged memories from his previous life, is unaware of the Zhang family's financial struggles and does not realize he is being looked down upon at this moment. Clearing his throat, he says, "Thank you all for coming to this glass release event I organized. The so-called glass is a pure, flawless transparent crystal, and shortly, the rare glass will be showcased. I believe you will find this trip worthwhile." As soon as he finishes speaking, the crowd erupts in boos. The local merchants think to themselves, is this supposed to be a favor? Just by standing on stage, it's hard not to feel disappointed. Meanwhile, the merchants from outside appear confused and can only observe the situation. Regarding the rare glass, rather than being shocked, many are skeptical. After all, even ordinary glass is a rarity. At this point, Zhang Xiaochuan senses the crowd's doubts and the local merchants' disdain towards him, but he is unfazed, believing that once the glass is revealed, it will astonish everyone. Just as he prepares to continue with the glassware demonstration, someone speaks up before he can. Zhang Erling, it's not that I, Liao, look down on you, but everyone here knows the situation of the Zhang family. What rare treasures can you possibly present? I advise you to step down. We are all here for the city official. The speaker is Liao Kuan, the head of a leading local merchant family, who speaks very unfriendly, mainly due to the neighboring lands of the Liao and Zhang families, which have caused friction over farming disputes, making them sworn enemies. After finishing his remarks, Liao Kuan turns to Li Liangong and says, "Just so you know, the Zhang family's poverty is well known. I wonder how they managed to gain your support. I can assure you that they have no treasures. I hope you can expel this person from the venue to avoid ruining the atmosphere for everyone." Zhang Xiaochuan, having spent his previous life focused on studies, is somewhat muddled about the relationship with the Liao family. Yet he is aware of their existence and feels their palpable hostility. Thinking to himself that they are stepping on his face, he realizes he must respond. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could react, Li Liangong was already unable to sit still. This was not just a slap in the face for Zhang Xiaochuan. It was also a blow to Li Liangong's own face. He waved his sleeve and pointed at the head of the Liao family, saying, "Do not be outrageous. This gathering today is initiated by Zhang Erling. What is your intention in sending him away? Do you not regard me highly?" Liao Kuan's heart sank, realizing the gravity of the situation. In his moment of anger over the conflict with the Zhang family, he had carelessly overlooked Li Shuqing's feelings. No matter the reason behind Li Shuqing's support for the Zhang family and calling for this gathering, attacking the Zhang family now would also undermine Li Shuqing. Moreover, Liao Kuan held significant influence in the business community of Suzhou, and he did not expect Li Shuqing to firmly side with Zhang Xiaochuan, giving him no face at all. Feeling frustrated, Liao Kuan decided he had to confront Zhang Xiaochuan, saying, "I hope Li Shuqing can overlook this. I merely believe the Zhang family lacks the capability. Surely you have heard of their situation. My estate is adjacent to the Zhang family, and I can confidently say they are absolutely impoverished. As a county noble, even their own residence is in tatters, let alone anything else." Upon hearing Liao Kuan's words, Li Liangong recalled his earlier unwavering support for the Zhang family, realizing that their decline was indeed common knowledge in Suzhou. However, the exquisite glassware he had been handling and drinking from over the past few days was not a sham. Yet, Liao Kuan had a point. Given the Zhang family's circumstances, there could be issues at play. He had already helped convene the merchants as previously agreed, so it was best not to meddle further. After all, it wasn't worth creating hostility between the Zhang family and the merchants. He decided to observe the situation quietly. Li Liangong's expression was completely visible to Liao Kuan, and with his cunning nature, it was easy to see that Li Liangong intended to remain an observer. Liao Kuan planned to exert further pressure on Zhang Xiaochuan. Regardless of what Zhang Xiaochuan was up to, Liao Kuan was determined to disrupt things. Most people, upon seeing someone less capable than themselves suddenly rise and attempt to overshadow them, would not think of congratulating or currying favor, but rather feel resentment and unwillingness. If that person were their enemy, they would only feel more displeased and would try to obstruct them by any means necessary. Although various signs indicated that Zhang Xiaochuan's glass was not a mere fabrication, Liao Kuan refused to believe it. Even if it were true, he would find a way to prevent the conference from proceeding normally. If they successfully showcased the exquisite glass, the Zhang family's reputation would undoubtedly soar, making it difficult to bully them in the future. So Liao Kuan said, "Zhang Erling, don't think that your family can produce anything valuable. Even if you could, would you let a mere child flaunt it? Where is your elder brother? It seems you're just toying with us merchants." He then turned to the other merchants and said, "We are all big businessmen making substantial profits. There is no need to entertain this child. Why don't we leave together to avoid being ridiculed for this matter in the future?" Liao Kuan was quite ruthless in his attempt to undermine the gathering. Although Li Shuqing was present, the merchants in attendance were all astute and aware of his stance. As one of the top businessmen in the area, Liao Kuan naturally had a following of sycophants, and at this moment, they all voiced their agreement with Liao Kuan. The head of the Liao family holds significant influence among the merchants in Shu Prefecture, so what he says naturally carries weight. Indeed, the decline of the Zhang family is evident for all to see, which explains why the head of the Liao family would say such things. I think it would be best to leave with the head of the Liao family. This way, there would be more supporters. And it was clear that everyone was eager to move, preparing to leave with Liao Kuan, as no one wanted to offend him due to Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan found himself unable to maintain control and hurriedly spoke up to stop everyone from leaving, but his voice was drowned out by the discussions below. At that moment, Zhang Xiaochuan was anxiously burning with worry, yet felt powerless. As the situation at the press conference seemed to be collapsing, a voice like thunder rang out. Everyone, hold on. Let me say something. This booming voice, penetrating and powerful, was recognized by many as belonging to Lei Shan, another influential merchant in Shu Prefecture. The murmurs quieted down, and those planning to leave with Liao Kuan also halted. Lei Shan directed his words not to the crowd of merchants, but specifically at Liao Kuan. Liao Kuan, are you trying to pressure people with your influence? The Zhang family's heir hasn't even presented anything yet, and you're in such a hurry to leave. Lei Shan's words clearly supported Zhang Xiaochuan. However, Liao Kuan was not pleased. He retorted, Lei San, show some respect. What business is this of yours? Are you really going to support that kid from the Zhang family? The implication was that Lei Shan was opposing him for the sake of Zhang Xiaochuan. Yes, Lei Shan, am backing the Zhang family's heir today. While everyone else is afraid of offending you, I am not. He then turned to the crowd. Aren't you all afraid of offending me? Besides, we were all invited by the Deputy Commissioner Li. It wouldn't be good to leave at the very beginning, would it? Moreover, since we are already here, why not let Zhang Erling showcase his treasures? That way, it won't be a wasted trip. That's all I have to say. Everyone can decide whether to stay or leave. After saying this, Lei Shan sat down. Although he stated that it was up to everyone, those present were not foolish. They all understood that leaving would mean opposing Lei Shan and disrespecting Deputy Commissioner Li. In contrast, Liao Kuan's influence seemed diminished, and it was wise to observe the situation. Realizing that the tide had turned, Liao Kuan understood that further coercion would only make him look petty. Reluctantly, he also sat down. Seeing that the atmosphere had calmed, Zhang Xiaochuan quickly picked up the pace and discreetly instructed Uncle Fu to note down the names of those who had cheered for Liao Kuan earlier. Zhang Xiaochuan gestured for Yaoer to bring out the items. At that moment, Yaoer approached swiftly, carrying a tray covered with red silk. Once Yaoer stood still, Zhang Xiaochuan announced, Now, I will present to everyone the transparent glass. With that, he gently unveiled the red silk, revealing four crystal-clear glass objects that sparkled in the light, captivating everyone with their dazzling appearance. Zhang Xiaochuan picked up the first glass bead, about the size of a baby's fist, raised it to show everyone, and said, What I want to present first is this glass bead. As we all know, glass is hard but extremely fragile. If it is struck by a hard object or falls from a height. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaochuan's hand slipped, and the bead fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Everyone was focused on the bead, and at that sudden moment, it felt as if their hearts had dropped and shattered along with it. However, the bead did not break. Instead, it bounced gently twice on the stone floor and then rolled to one side. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly picked up the still rolling bead and raised it again for everyone to see. Still intact, without even a scratch. Amidst the crowd's astonishment, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, Those who understand glass should know that it is very fragile, but the improved glass, which we call glass, is incredibly hard and will not break when dropped. Zhang Xiaochuan placed the glass bead back on the tray and picked up the second and third glass items. One was a wine glass the size of a coffee cup, and the other was a teacup the size of a thermos. He held both cups up for everyone to see and said, These two cups are for drinking wine and water. You have already seen how sturdy the glass bead is. I wonder if these cups are just as strong. Let me demonstrate. He clinked the rims of the two cups together, producing a clear sound, and the glass cups remained unscathed. Zhang Xiaochuan then lifted one of the cups again, and everyone realized he was about to let it fall to the ground. Their hearts racing with anxiety, all silently cursing Zhang Xiaochuan's reckless behavior. Earlier, when the glass objects were first presented, Li Shuqing had observed the merchants, who seemed inexperienced and awestruck, and thought back to his first encounter with a glass pig figurine, suddenly feeling balanced. A smile crept onto his face, as if joy was built upon the embarrassment of others. However, now he was equally nervous about Zhang Xiaochuan's actions, fearing that any misstep could lead to destruction. Just then, a voice interrupted Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xianshi, hold on. We already understand the hardness of these cups. Out of respect for Uncle Lei, let us not drop them. If they break, it would be a waste. The speaker was Lei Shan. Zhang Xiaochuan glanced at Lei Shan and then at the crowd, who were nodding like chicks pecking at grain, clearly anxious that Zhang Xiaochuan might drop the cups. Many were already thinking about how to obtain these glass items from him, and they certainly did not want to see him break them. Seeing that the demonstration had served its purpose, whether he dropped them or not was no longer important. So he placed the two cups back in their original spot. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief and once again expressed their silent gratitude to Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan then picked up the third glass item, which was a glass bowl. After showing it to everyone, he said, This last glass item is a bowl. Since it is a bowl, it is meant to hold soup and rice, and both can be quite hot. Let me demonstrate how heat-resistant this glass bowl is. He turned to gesture at Uncle Fu, who immediately brought over a burning charcoal basin and a hanging stove. The water in the stove was already boiling. Before anyone could react, Zhang Xiaochuan had already thrown a glass bowl into the stove, prompting everyone to hold their breath and once again pay their respects to Zhang Xiaochuan's ancestors. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to put on an act and say something to let the bowl cook a bit longer, he looked up and saw a group of merchants staring at him with unfriendly eyes. Realizing it was not appropriate to go too far, he quickly used the prepared tools to fish the glass bowl out. Clearly, the glass bowl was intact, and the merchants breathed a sigh of relief, marveling at what a treasure it was and thinking of ways to acquire it. Through Zhang Xiaochuan's series of actions, the intended effect was clearly achieved. Everyone fully recognized that this glass vessel not only had a more exquisite appearance than crystal, but also possessed great practicality, making its value immeasurable. They were all eager to see what Zhang Xiaochuan would do next. In fact, Zhang Xiaochuan's demonstration was somewhat unnecessary. The transparent glass was already enough to make these merchants treat it as a precious item. However, this also added to its value, making it even more appealing. Zhang Xiaochuan then said what everyone was thinking, holding up the glass wine cup. I believe everyone is now wondering how to purchase this glass item. I regret to inform you that according to the original plan, it is not for sale. The crowd disregarded Zhang Xiaochuan's words as merely a prelude, and upon hearing that it was not for sale, they immediately erupted in protest, demanding that he sell the 4 glass vessels on the tray. Zhang Erling, don't say anything else. We're already at this point. Do you think everyone will agree if you say it's not for sale? Exactly. Just sell the 4 pieces on the table before discussing anything else. Zhang Erling, name your price. What price? I'll offer 1,000 for the 4 pieces. Chapter 29. Auction. Seeing that everyone had settled on a price and were ready for the exchange, Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself that he hadn't even spoken as the owner, and they were finalizing the transaction already. So he shouted, sell? Although his voice wasn't as powerful as thunder, it was loud enough to convey the needs of everyone present, and the room quieted down. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, selling. The glass is available for purchase today. Since there hadn't been an arranged selling segment, he had consulted with the official in charge earlier, who believed that since this event was hosted by Zhang Xiaochuan, he could decide how to proceed, but it was important to ensure everyone benefited. Therefore, he announced that he would sell a batch of glassware through an auction. Upon hearing that it would be sold via auction, the crowd was puzzled. So Zhang Xiaochuan provided a brief explanation. Although there was a flurry of discussion, many expressed their willingness to accept it, urging Zhang Xiaochuan to start quickly. He gestured for silence and then said, to show my sincerity, I have prepared a little gift for everyone before the auction begins. As soon as the words were spoken, Uncle Fu and Su Dania brought up a large box, with Yaoer following behind. At each table, Yaoer took a small jewelry box from the box and placed it on the table. The merchants who received them immediately picked them up and opened them, revealing a circular glass plaque resembling an Olympic medal, cushioned with red silk fabric. Lei Shan also received one of the glass plaques and immediately picked it up to examine it. He noticed that the surface had raised and recessed patterns, and upon closer inspection, there was a set of strange lines, with 2 ears of wheat on the lower half and a 5-pointed star in the middle. A modern person would recognize it as a military logo at a glance. Lei Shan thought the embossed pattern resembled a totem, making the glass sparkle even more. At the bottom of the pattern, there was a circle of small text, which upon closer inspection read Tang Kaiyuan, clearly indicating today's date. When Lei Shan turned the cup over to look at the bottom, he was astonished to find that the golden characters were embedded within the glass, rather than printed on the surface. This small icon along with a string of text elevated the value of this exquisite glass piece further. Just as Lei Shan was immersed in admiring the glass, he was interrupted by a rather discordant voice. Zhang Erling, why haven't we received the glass plaques? The speaker was one of those who had just joined Liao Kuan in making a fuss earlier. Before Zhang Xiaochuan could respond, Lei Shan's voice rang out. How can you ask such a question? This gift is naturally for friends and guests. What do you count as? You just caused a scene and still expect gifts? At this point, the atmosphere had completely shifted. Everyone had received the glass wine plaques from Zhang Xiaochuan, which were truly precious. As the saying goes, a hand shortens the distance, and now everyone was naturally on Zhang Xiaochuan's side. So as soon as Lei Shan finished speaking, voices of agreement began to rise. Weren't you all just about to leave? What gifts do you want now? Fortunately, we didn't leave earlier, otherwise, how could we have had the chance to receive such a beautiful glass plaque? It's simply exquisite. If you keep talking nonsense, you might as well be thrown out. The speaker was left red-faced and looked at Liao Kuan, hoping he would defend him, but Liao Kuan knew better than to speak up, as he would instantly become the target of everyone's venting. Seeing Liao Kuan not support him, the man had no choice but to sit down silently. By this time, Yaoer had finished distributing her gifts, and of course, none went to Liao Kuan and his group. Zhang Xiaochuan then asked loudly, I wonder if everyone is satisfied with this small gift? The crowd excitedly responded, very satisfied. Extremely satisfied. That's good to hear. Next, we will officially enter the auction segment. After Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, the crowd's enthusiasm was not as high as before. Everyone thought they would be auctioning off the items displayed earlier. Now that they had received them, it would be great to buy more, but they wouldn't feel too disappointed if they couldn't. Except for Liao Kuan and his group. However, Zhang Xiaochuan then had Yaoer bring up a wooden box, about the size of a modern gift box. And seeing that it was something new piqued everyone's interest again. Zhang Xiaochuan had specially prepared a batch of glassware for today's event, originally intending to give them all away. Now, selling them would be even better, but in order to pave the way for future rewards in search of foreign plants, he still decided to give away the glass plaques. What was presented now was a set of wine utensils. The base of the wooden box was lined with red silk, and the utensils were half embedded in the box, wrapped in silk, with the other half exposed, reflecting a dazzling brilliance in the sunlight. Inside the box, there was a large open glass decanter accompanied by 4 smaller open glass decanters, as well as 12 small wine cups. To be precise, there were only 11 small wine cups, as there was one empty space in the box, which Zhang Xiaochuan filled with the cup he had used for demonstration, fitting it perfectly. Everyone present was captivated by the wine utensils, which seemed like treasures. Just as Zhang Xiaochuan was about to speak, an elder hurried over and whispered in his ear, revealing that someone had asked him to come over. Zhang Xiaochuan approached the table of the person who had called him, clasping his hands and saying, "Greetings, Deputy Director Li." Upon seeing Zhang Xiaochuan arrive,